This episode of Bringing the Backups is brought to you by the new Dave Chappelle special, The Closet, a 5-hour comedy extravaganza where Dave Chappelle talks about trans people and fistfights Hannah Gadsby. Spoiler alert, it's a close fight. It's Dave Chappelle like you've never seen him before, utterly consumed by a few shitty Jezebel articles. Gay or straight, Dave Chappelle's The Closet is bound to make you ask questions you've never asked before. Questions like, Jesus, another trans special? And I get it. It's just a lot of trans stuff again. And maybe he's trans. I'm okay if he is. I'm just saying, it just seemed... Oh, Nanette just caught him flush with a jab. Produced by Kanye West, Erick Badu, and the last drop of free speech in the fucking country, The Closet is bound to make the woke mafia try to invent a number lower than 0 to tank it on Rotten Tomatoes. Get ready to see poor, angry open micers shit on rich, fake woke writer's room pussy comics. The Closet by Dave Chappelle. After this one, he'll tell jokes again. Oh, what is up? Welcome to Bringing the Backups. I'm your host, Erick Hellwig. On the show today, comedian Liz Galalis drops in to take a shit on Rudy. Are you fucking kidding me? That's going to be a fight. And then later, I'm interviewing Colby Dant at the Colby D on Instagram and Twitter. You know him as one of the main guys featured on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network and the host of the College Football Experience, one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. On the show, we're talking Jeff Blake. Oh, man, 90s Bengals? You kidding me? Carl Pickens, open post, touchdown Bengals. Jeff Blake, one of the all-time underrated backups. Super stoked to talk about him. I do have some stand-up dates to let you guys know about. On October 28th, I'm at Fourth Wall in Hollywood. On November 6th, I'm in Burbank at Flappers. November 8th, I'm back at Bar Lubitsch for my show, Barely Making It LA. First time we've done that show in a year and a half. If you're in the LA area, come check out Barely Making It. I'm also going to be in Boston on November 10th. Have shows getting set up there for the week right now. I am booked in Idaho in January and Hawaii in February. So, big spots, Idaho and Hawaii. That's where most of my listeners are. You can find details for all these shows at erichellwig.com. And, of course, you can support this podcast by going on Apple Podcasts and reviewing this show 5 stars. Write me a review. I'll send you a coffee mug. If you're an asshole, I don't have any money, so why don't you just review the show and help me out? All right, Yummies, take it away.
Grab your gear and lace it up. Helmets on and cup your nuts. It's that time, you know what's up. Here we go, bring in the backup. Bring in the backups. Bring in the backups, yeah. Bring in the backups. Helmets on and cup your nuts. Don't think twice, bring in the backups.
Oh, welcome to Bringing the Backups, episode 2 of season 2. I'm Erick Hellwig, Remember, I'm the guy that was talking like 5 seconds ago before that song played. Oh, is that the dog? Yeah. Joining me on the podcast today is my dog, Gordon, and comedian... Oof. Oh, yeah, you're going to be Gordon the whole time?
Gordon.
Yeah, comedian Liz Galalis.
Hi.
Hey. Is that microphone close enough?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but
enough?
get a little closer.
Okay.
That's probably better. You can move it so it's...
I was petting the dog. That's why I was away from the mic, and you told me I wasn't jumping on for a while.
A fight already. Well, look, this is a sign of things to come. Liz is here to shit on the movie Rudy.
It's a bad movie.
It's okay. Well, look, put a pin in this because we're going to fight about it. We know that's coming. And we don't really need to fight because I kind of agree with you, but Did
I change your mind?
You didn't change my mind. I was watching the movie being like, this is pretty boring, but I can't really feel that way.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to fight.
Okay.
I'm going to kind of agree with you.
Okay.
But I'm going to end up not being able to come to your side because it's blasphemy.
It's not.
To say... Whatever. We can't get into
it now.
We can't get into it now. Here's what we have. We have a packed show. I don't even have time for bits this week. Okay? None of these stupid bits. All right, I'm done with the bits forever. They're gone.
Your fans will be very sad.
Well, not really. It'll be back in the next show. But I've got 2 interviews. Okay, I've got to set Liz straight on this Rudy shit, and then I've got Colby Dant. The Colby Dant. You met him when he came over to the house to record the show.
Yeah.
It was like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
The interview's super dated.
Okay.
Like, we're referencing stuff that's happening, like, that's coming in September. And I was hoping my audience would notice. But now I've done this, so now I think they're going to know. They're probably not listening. To even say my audience feels like a little, like, you know, like I'm putting too much on, you know, like I have an audience. You know, it's just people that happen to listen to this show, right?
That's still an audience.
All right.
I don't know what you want from me.
I don't know what I want from you either. I'm not you. I was my idea to have you here for the beginning part, but maybe it was, I don't know. I'm like, save me.
From what?
I don't know.
Let's just talk about Rudy.
Not yet.
What do you need to do?
I have to talk about Jeff Blake because he's
I don't
the
know who
quarterback.
that is.
Well, you don't got to. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is the part where I read through the Wikipedia.
Oh, you haven't talked about the quarterback yet?
This is the beginning of the podcast.
Oh.
I played the intro song.
I thought you already recorded that.
No, I know.
This is going to take way longer than 10 minutes.
It's going to take 10 minutes. He doesn't have that big of a
Oh
Wikipedia
my
page.
God.
Just hang out, pet the dog. I'll call you back when it's
Call
time.
me back. I'm going to go sit on the couch.
You don't sit on. Oh, you sit on that couch?
Yeah.
Oh, that blue couch.
Yes, our blue couch that's in this room
Okay,
that is a foot behind
Go
me.
sit on. Go sit on the
Okay,
blue
call
couch.
me when you're.
I'll call you in
Thank you.
35 seconds.
It's going to be longer than that.
All right. Already tense in the backups home. My last name is Backup. That's why it's called Bringing the Backups. It's not. All right. This podcast sucks so far. Jeffrey Bertrand Blake. All right, born December 4th, 1970. You know, a couple weeks before Christmas. He's a former American football quarterback. Okay, so Jeff Blake was in the league for 14 seasons. Now, 7 teams during that career, but obviously we're going to talk about those Bengal years, right? Where he was affectionately referred to, I think I mentioned in the show's intro, Shakin' Blake, and literally made Carl Pickens like a household. I mean, the name Carl Pickens sounds amazing. You know, like for a receiver, Pickens, you picture somebody pulling the ball out of the air. I mean, it was poetry. And I think I want to say while Blake was the starting quarterback in Cincinnati, the heights they ascended to was like, I think the best record he ever had was 8-8. He was a starter from like 94 or maybe like 95 to 99, made a Pro Bowl in 99. But yeah, getting the Bengals in the mid 90s to 8-8. I mean, this is epic. That's an accomplishment not unlike the guy Rudy, if you're familiar. This amazing sports figure in American history who we're going to talk about a little bit later. But no, Jeff Blake gets all the credit for making one of the crappiest organizations in not just the NFL, but all professional sports. I mean, he rose the Bengals to this amazing level. By the way, as soon as he leaves the Bengals, he goes to New Orleans. Let's do the full track here, okay? He goes to East Carolina, crushes it at ECU, and I talked with Colby in the interview a little bit about some of the reasons he went to ECU. I think some of them race related. Okay, just preparing you guys. That comes up in the conversation. Obviously, Jeff Blake, black quarterback in 1991. Not the easiest road to toe, we would say at that time. But I think, according to Colby, I'm going to take him at his word, ECU was his only scholarship offer at a D1 school. And holy shit, man, he did some amazing stuff at ECU. I mean, we talk about the 91 season. So Blake finished 6th in Heisman Trophy voting, took ECU, the Pirates, to an 11-1 record, a number 9 ranking. They put him in the Hall of Fame for ECU in 2007. Yeah, he had a sick 91 season. It was insane. Look at these numbers. 28 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 3 rushing. Yeah, I mean, this guy was insane in college. Got drafted by the Jets. Goes to the Bengals in 94. And yeah, by the mid-90s, by 95, he's the starter. And yeah, I remember the other receiver he had was Darnay Scott. Darnay Scott and Carl Pickens. Those were like the three guys in the Bengals. And I think those other two guys are only there because Jeff Blake like made them. Now, after Blake leaves the Bengals, he goes to the Saints, where he starts 11 games at quarterback. He breaks his foot in 2000, but that was the Saints won a playoff game in 2000. I want to say it was their first playoff win. It might have been their first playoff win ever. That's how bad the Saints were. I mean, God, could Blake have gone to worse teams? I mean, if you're ranking them like at that time, worst teams, it's like in the NFL, you got to go Cincinnati, probably Tampa maybe is in there. Tampa hadn't had a really good season yet. And then the Saints. Those are like the three worst teams. He's on two of them. Anyway, he leaves the Saints after 2001. Goes to the, where does he go? The Ravens? Hang on. I don't want to get the timeline wrong. Ravens in 2002. Cardinals in 2003. Goes to the Birds in 2004. Go Birds! And then plays for the Bears in 2005. His career NFL stats. All right, dude is 134 touchdowns to 99 interceptions. Quarterback rating, 78.0. I mean, look, adjust that 10 points up for, like, crappy team syndrome. I mean, the dude is, like, I think he's got a quarterback rating probably around 90, 95 on real squads. He was great, man. That's it. That's all I got on Jeff Blake. We actually talk about him a lot. I'll say this about my interview with Colby, which I've now already revealed to you. I recorded. What happened was I recorded it, like, thinking it was just going to be the next episode of Bringing the Backups back in, like, August. And then I got super overwhelmed, and I was like, I'm making it the end of the season. So I just ended the first season, and I had this episode on backlog, this interview, and then I didn't come back for 2 months, so now it's like an old interview. But the thing is like, you know, I like to think the subjects we cover are timeless, you know? Like you know, like the musical Cats or something. Like you could listen to it now or 30 years ago, and it's still as poignant as the day it was made. You guys like the musical Cats out there? Has anybody seen Cats? The whole selling point for Cats is like the cats come into the audience and they like play with the audience. I would punch a cat in the face if it's like a man dressed as a cat hopping on my lap. Like, that doesn't sound like a fun, ooh, yeah, let's go to the theater and I'm going to let like a 40-year-old man piss on my leg. That'll be great. Cats. Fuck Cats. I don't want that at all. I was selling discount theater tickets for so long, and Cats was one of the shows. I had free tickets to Cats. Yeah, I'm not a cat man. I'm even just saying cat man. Cat man would be a terrible superhero. A cat man is like he's very finicky about the types of crimes he wants to fight. I would not enjoy a Catman series. No, I just don't like cats. You know, like a dog-like cat is more my thing. But like, why not at that point just get a smaller dog? You know, and if you're gonna get a smaller dog, why not get a real dog? And then that's what I do. I got a big pit bull who's still in view. Is he hanging out? Oh, look at him. He's making direct eye contact with me under the table. Guys, this is so cute. Oh, man, look at Gordon. You guys have seen Gordon, right? I think I posted photos of him on Bringing the Back Up. I don't know, maybe, whatever. If you just follow me on Instagram at Erick Hellwig, you'll see a lot of photos of Gordon. Just trying to like get people to like see my shows. I think a more effective way is to just take cute photos of my dog and make it like my dog is the comedian. Be like, Gordon shows in Boston. Gordon shows. You know, that'll make people care. That'll help with the algorithm. Speaking of shows, you guys hear that lineup of shows? Oh my God, like your boy's getting booked, huh? Who's in Idaho, right? I like saying, like, come see me, I'm in Idaho. Like, Idaho's not, like, a huge fucking state. Like, anybody living in Idaho should drive, even if it's 6 hours, to come see me do stand-up in January. No, I'm actually stoked. I booked a road gig. I'm going to be a road dog. And I want to say the date's January 22nd. Don't quote me on it. But yeah, starting to book road gigs, getting excited about that. A lot of shows. I don't know. Liz, that's enough. You can come over. We can fight about Rudy now. What did I go? I went like 12 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
And I think I laid. Usually I go a little bit more in depth on the quarterback, but the interview with Colby, we're talking sports the whole time for like an hour 20.
So they won't be starved for.
They won't be starved.
Content.
Yeah, if you're a sports fan, you're like, what the fuck, Eric? Mm-hmm. Well, there's no bits. There's not a lot of sports. Mm-hmm. You're gonna get your Jeff Blake fill in the second half of the show.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've never listened to an episode of this podcast?
Yes, I have.
Before. The one that you're on.
I've listened to the ones that I'm on.
Yes. But like when you're on your phone.
Yeah.
And your husband's face comes up. Oh, new podcast on Tuesday morning. You delete immediately.
No, I don't delete it.
What do you do?
When I remember, I let it play through and I just don't have the volume on.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because the level of like how, here's what you are. You're very proud that I'm doing this podcast.
I think you're very funny and I love the idea.
But you're not impressed at all by what's happening.
No, I'm impressed.
Are you impressed?
I am impressed. It's a lot of work. Yeah. You've committed to it. What's the stat? Like most people give up after 7 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you haven't done that. You're working hard. You're passionate. It's funny. I'm very proud of you, and I am impressed. I'm very impressed.
Okay.
I mean that.
That's fair. I mean, here's the thing. I have podcasts that I listen to. There's not a lot of podcasts that I listen to where I'm not the guest on the podcast.
Right. And if I had a podcast about, like, Cats the musical.
Cats, feminist literature, I probably wouldn't be
listen to it every week.
Hanging out too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also not a fan of Cats the musical, but I do like musicals.
Did you like, was the Lombardi? Wasn't there one that was...
That was not a musical.
That was like a drama?
Play. It was a play.
It should have been a musical.
It would be hilarious if it was a musical.
Here we come with the Green Bay Packers on the field and we run real fast. I always think, I've told you this before, I always think it's funny whenever there's like tough guy songs.
Yeah.
In musicals, they're like, I've got a knife and I'm gonna stab you. Stick ya, here I come. Boop-a-doop-a-doop. It's the least threatening thing.
Right. No, that's basically West Side Story.
Yeah. If I was like fighting somebody and even if they had a knife, if they started doing a pirouette, I would just run up mid pirouette and punch them in the dick.
See, I would not feel like I had the upper hand if somebody did a pirouette because it's not easy to do a pirouette. That person is agile.
Yeah, but they're not
really. They have great core strength.
They're not really
and balance.
Yeah, but they're also not really focused on kicking your ass if they're trying to land a pirouette.
Right.
Also, you think like they're in the street.
Right.
Like they're doing a pirouette like in shoes on like cement.
I mean, all the more reason to be impressed if they stick the landing.
See, but you're the theater fan. You would be impressed by the theater. I would be looking for an opportunity to fucking land a shot, get away, get the knife away from them. Mm-hmm. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to run. You're supposed to run if the second there's danger. You're supposed to get out.
Yeah, I guess
if you have an opportunity.
If you have an opportunity, you should get the fuck out.
That's not how. I don't feel that way.
No, you fight.
I'd rather fight. And die. I think that's the... What's up?
I just thought I heard something.
I mean, I'm talking. Could be my voice.
I heard something downstairs.
Yeah. We thought we heard pipes the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And instead it was...
This is not interesting.
Something outside. Okay, fine. All right, well, look, let's talk about what happened the other night. All right, we're picking a movie to watch. Last time it was time for us to choose a movie. You chose the...
Well, you wanted to watch a sports movie.
I wanted to watch a sports movie.
And so I looked up the greatest sports movies and I picked a handful of ones that I hadn't seen before. And on that list
was Rudy.
Which
I haven't seen since last time I saw Rudy, I was trashed with my friends in college. And then before that, I'd probably seen it a number of times just on TV and stuff like that. And I'd always held it in very high regards. Like, this is one of the great sports movies
You're
of all
not
time.
the only one. It is considered one of the greatest sports films of all time.
It's on almost every list.
Yeah.
Including the one you picked.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was like in the top 10.
Yeah. So you hated it.
I despised it. I'm angry it exists.
I'll give you 10 seconds to sum up why you didn't like it, and then we're going to wrap up the pod.
Well, I didn't think I had to prepare some opening argument, some opening remarks.
I'll tell you, I'll give you the format. It's only fair if you don't know the format. You have 10 seconds. I get a 10-minute rebuttal, and then we're done.
We're done. Rudy is a movie about a man who was so annoying that somebody eventually threw him a bone in a situation where the stakes could not be any lower. That is the film. The moral of the story is keep pestering people, and someone will be like, fuck it, let them go on the last 30 seconds in a game that's a blowout, and he'll shut the fuck up.
Oh, my God. To sum up Rudy in terms like that is so offensive to the core of sports. It's so, I mean, look.
What did he achieve?
Okay,
you said he got a sack. Cool. And?
Already, period. Okay, period. Right away. To say he got a sack and, that would, like, you're a musical theater fan. That would be like, you win best backup castmate in Chicago.
That's not a thing.
You win team.
That's not a thing.
A participation award. Any type of award that you win when you're on a Broadway musical. Any type of acclaim you receive.
Tony Award. A sack is an equivalent to a Tony Award? I don't think so.
No, it's not. But
like winning the Super Bowl is the equivalent to a Tony Award.
How about getting your hometown paper to write, hey, this actor is a swing in Cats.
Oh, that's nothing.
That's nothing?
Yeah. All the more reason to not like Rudy. If the greatest sports story of all time is the equivalent of getting a write-up in your local newspaper, the bar is low.
You're twisting my words. What the accomplishment is that he had no place being on a college football team. And like, again, what actual Rudy Rudiger, the real man, because this is a real man we're talking about. Who,
by the way, we looked him up and he sounds like a piece of shit in real life.
He sounds like a man who lost his way.
He did crimes.
He lost his way.
And he's like a Mormon now.
Look, who doesn't have... what, Mormons are bad people? Uh-oh.
I think Mormons are a little misguided.
Who isn't misguided? What does that even mean? They're religious people who wear magic underwear, and I welcome them to be fans of this show.
I do too.
All right, go BYU. They're joining the Big 12 next year. Do you know what that means? I'll give you $1 million if you know what that means.
It's the biggest 12 college football teams.
Boo! Boo!
The best 12
Boo.
college football teams. Who's getting kicked out of the Big 12 to make way for BYU?
No one's getting kicked out.
Well, then why is it called the Big 12 if there can only be 12?
Well, there's more than 12 teams
Well,
in
it's
the Big
stupid.
12.
It shouldn't be called the Big 12 then.
It's called college. It's expansion, and the teams they're losing, they're actually, you know what? Well, they actually did have 12 teams, I think, but they lost Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC.
Okay.
So they picked up BYU and some other. You don't care. Your eyes are glazing over.
SEC is Southeastern Conference.
There you go. Hey, that's nice. That's nice.
Gordon,
go let him. Can you let him out?
Did you guys hear that?
They can't. They never hear it.
Okay.
I always think he's being super loud, and then when I listen back, Gordon, you want to say hi? All right, as my wife gets up, I didn't prepare enough of an argument against what her Rudy take is here. I feel
my
like I'm
other Rudy take.
Well, I
have several Rudy takes.
I get to respond.
Okay, respond.
Okay, 5'6", 165 pounds, played on the Notre Dame practice squad for 2 years. That is an accomplishment.
Yes.
That's not pestering people. That's getting your ass kicked every day by dudes that are literally twice your size. Literally twice your size.
That's commendable, but that's not like where the story ended.
It's not. But commendable is such a it's such a minimalization of what he did. It's not.
No, he worked his ass off. That's great. But I don't know. A lot of people work their asses off. He didn't. Oh my God. He didn't earn it.
What do you? Yes, he did.
He wasn't good enough to actually play, and they threw him a bone. That's not that inspiring.
Okay, so you don't. When you watch videos of kids that have some sort of birth defect, but they put them into a football game and they score a touchdown.
Yeah, I hate that shit.
Are you serious?
I hate that shit.
All right, well.
That's called inspiration porn, and the disability community is against it.
I'm going to lose this argument, aren't I? You don't like that at all?
No.
Why?
Because it's taking disabled people who are just normal people and putting them on a pedestal for doing basic shit, and then the person that put the kid in the game pats themselves on the back and says good job me, without actually doing anything to help accessibility in society.
Oh, well, you don't know that they're not doing anything to improve accessibility, but you don't know that. You're inferring that from what you don't like about them. But what if the kid actually is really happy about it?
That's great. I'm happy that kid had an experience and a positive experience. I don't think that kid shouldn't have that positive experience, but I don't think that it's worth a movie.
Oh my God. Maybe you're right. I don't like that I'm being challenged on this. All right? I don't like it.
The other thing I don't like about Rudy is it's a football movie and we never see a touchdown.
Oh, you see touchdowns.
Do you?
Yes, they show a couple touchdowns.
It's B-roll.
I mean, Rudy, it's B, it's D-roll. It's really not important.
It's not important at all.
It's not important at all.
And then the movie, he doesn't even start doing football until we're more than halfway through the movie.
Did you say start doing football? God damn it. The fact that someone that says the phrase start doing football is kind of winning a debate is so grating to my soul.
The first hour,
hurts.
and I paused the movie and I looked. The first hour and 9 minutes of an hour and 47-minute film or something like that. These aren't exact numbers, but an approximation.
You say a 47-minute film?
An hour and 47-minute
It's almost
film.
a 2-hour film. I will give you this. I want to give you this point. Okay. It's more than an hour into where he goes to the first practice for Notre Dame football. And I remember that moment going yeah, it took us a while to get here. I remember having that feeling.
Already, if it's based on a true story, we already know he's going to Notre Dame. We don't need an hour of watching him study to take tests to get into Notre Dame.
Yeah, it feels like a movie that my dad wrote when he was trying to convince all of us that we needed to go to college.
Mm-hmm. It's really just propaganda.
It's really
for higher education.
You have to go to college.
Yeah.
Which is not really a thing I agree with now, you know?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, you hate this because this is my woke take.
Let's hear the woke take.
The groundskeeper was probably actually good at football because he dressed in every game, apparently. Never got to play because of racism.
You don't know.
And then we're celebrating Rudy.
First off,
who just goes, my dad wants to see me run out of the tunnel. Can I do that? Rudy, and then he sulks every time he's not on the list. And then he quits the movie about the guy that never gave up. Gives up.
He didn't give up.
And then he gets a pep talk from the groundskeeper who's I couldn't play because of racism. And then Rudy comes back after having a hissy fit and quitting. And then everybody slow claps because he threw a fit and then realized he was being a bitch.
Fucking hate. I should not have had you on the podcast. This is the worst. No, these are all unfortunately, I think these are decent points you're making. First off, don't steal the woke point from me. That's what I said when we were watching the movie.
I said.
No,
I said it.
No. I said it, and I know I said it.
What did you say?
Because I never say woke shit.
What did you say?
I said, like, the black groundskeeper goes like, I was on the bench for 2 years, thought they weren't playing me because of my color, so I quit.
Oh yeah, you did
and
say.
And I said, well, I did the math,
true.
and I was like, it was the 1960s. It
was like the 50s.
Yes, well, Rudy played in 1975. The groundskeeper's probably like
40?
45.
Oh, like
so let's move him back 20, 25 years. So that puts
50s.
him into the 50. You're right, mid 50s. Yeah. Okay, Alabama didn't have a black player on their team till like 1970. So Notre Dame's not Alabama, but it's possible he wasn't playing because of his color. It's like likely he wasn't playing because of his color. So I said that.
You did say that. Okay, I'll give you that.
And I have to take credit for saying something woke because I very rarely do that.
Barely woke. To be like, segregation really did exist in the 50s.
I have to take look, I took a moment to criticize
Jim Crow was a hell of an injustice.
No. Listen, I read between the lines. The script said one thing, and I said, that seems like bullshit.
Plausible.
That seems... Well, the script wasn't acknowledging that. The script wasn't saying he wasn't played because of his color. The character was saying, I assumed I wasn't playing because of my color. But it also infers maybe that wasn't true. Right. And the truth, it probably was a part of why he wasn't playing. So, I don't think... to me, that doesn't diminish what Rudy did. But I thought it was like, it's clearly like a, my dad wrote the movie.
We figured out how to fix the movie. If we were going to do a remake of Rudy.
Yeah, we did.
This is what we would do. You can explain it better than me.
Yeah, well, coming from the person that said started doing football, why don't you let me go ahead and sum up what the movie should have been? We only need like 15 minutes of his childhood and loving Notre Dame football and him getting into Notre Dame. Like, that's an hour of the movie. It could be condensed into 15 minutes.
20 minutes. The inciting incident should have been him getting into Notre Dame.
His friend dying. I'm like, I guess, but
That's good, but they never tie it back in.
They never tie it back.
Rudy never goes, this one's for you, Pete.
Yeah. So we could lose the friend dying.
Or keep it and just let it come back around.
Let it come back, yeah. Let him go to the grave and weep. Mm-hmm. And, people like now would be like, "Ooh, Rudy was bi. Did you realize?" Like, they probably would have like, that would have been.
Think pieces.
And then other people would love it. So look, I think they could have condensed all that down. And then it should have been a movie about what it's like to be a scrub on a D1 college football team. Because right now in that movie, there's like a 5-minute montage of him getting his ass kicked.
The other thing is, like, by the time he gets into Notre Dame, we're an hour and like 10 minutes into the movie.
We're far in there.
And then he's at tryouts, and the coaches are like, it's going to be 5 days of hell, boys. And then Rudy gets his ass kicked like a handful of times, goes, I can do it, coach. And they're like, that Rudy kid has heart. You're on the team.
Yeah,
like, there wasn't... I thought we were really in for some like dramatic, conflict-ridden days of tryouts.
Yeah. Well, I think they also keep saying like he had no athletic talent. He had zero. I'm like, well, he must have had some. He led his high school football team in tackle. Like, if I walked onto Notre Dame, they would be like, he's going to die. You have to get off the field now. Like, I have plantar fasciitis. I'm not quick. I don't understand the plays. Like, I would.
Crumb of bread will kill you.
Yeah, really? Well, celiacs could play football. I don't think that's going to stop them. No, you're just insulting me. Thanks for coming on. No, I thought, like, he must have done something good in real life. In real life, he must have made some plays. He must have been just like he knew the X's and O's really well, so he was always in the right spot. So it was forcing the players on offense to really have to study the other team's defense in the practice week. Right. Like, he had to have been providing a value to the football team.
Anyway, so it should have been about what it's like to be a scrub, is the term you used?
A scrub. He's a practice squad player. He's like fourth string.
And it should have been a story about what the practice squad guys do, and Rudy's at the helm because he's more passionate than anybody else and has a positive attitude no matter what.
Yeah, you know they.
And then he should I don't know, improve enough that they put him on, and he actually.
Did you ever see Invincible with Mark Wahlberg?
No.
So it's a movie about the Eagles. It's cool. There's a lot of vintage Eagles T-shirts and Mark Wahlberg's rippling biceps. That's the main thing in the movie. And he's a practice squad guy, and they do a little bit more of talking about that, like what it's like to be he has a touchdown in a play that has a little more significance to an Eagle. Like he helps ice an Eagles win against the Giants at Veterans Stadium.
Sounds more
the
inspiring
70s.
than
It's pretty inspiring.
coming in the last 30 seconds of the game in a blowout.
You've made your point. But I don't think there's been a movie that's ever really, and by the way, backup listeners out there, okay, feel free to write into who gives a fuck at gmail.com. I don't know. Erick Hellwig comedy. You just write into my email. I don't care. If there's a movie that I'm not thinking of, tell me. But I've never seen a movie that really does a deep dive on that, on the roster crunch. Like the guys that it's almost like Hard Knocks. Like there's that TV show where you're watching them make a roster before a season starts, and you get really attached to all these guys and you learn their stories, and then they all get cut because you have to be really good to make an NFL team. Mm-hmm. And so I think that would have been cool to see more of that. Like, remember he has a friend that's also on the practice squad that never gets to dress?
Yeah.
Like that guy's story. Like that should be the main friend in the movie.
Right.
Not like Jon Favreau.
Yeah, and there's this storyline with this girl that went to Notre Dame that was pretty, and then she was she served no purpose.
Oh, that I think that served a purpose. That was remember that time Rudy couldn't get pussy?
But he never even pursued her.
Yeah, he was just fucking talking about Notre Dame football the whole time.
I love Notre Dame football. She was like, come paint the helmets. He was like, okay. And then he gets drunk and is like, I don't go to Notre Dame. And she's like, well, you can't paint the helmets anymore. And then that's it.
Yeah. No, whenever I watch movies from the 80s where there's a female love interest, I'm always like, okay, let's see how fucking uncomfortable this movie's gonna write a love scene between two. Let's check out this movie 30 years pre Me Too and see how mad it makes my wife. But he doesn't even attempt.
No.
He does nothing.
No.
He's just oh, look, they put more gold in the football helmet. Did you know that?
He's a fucking nerd.
He's a little bit of a nerd. All right, I think Rudy might suck. I think it might suck.
I just can't believe that guy is the sports hero
you have to stop saying, look, the movie isn't him. That's the movie that they wrote.
Yeah. So
we don't know that guy was like that. He could have been a badass in real life. He's committing crimes as a 70-year-old man. That dude's got some balls. He could have been cooler. You don't think committing securities fraud is kind of cool? It's a little cool.
Yeah, that's what the real life Rudy went on to do.
He was a motivational speaker, and then he defrauded a bunch of people out of money.
A sack in a Notre Dame game during a blowout where it was inconsequential, and then he committed securities fraud.
Yeah. Yeah, we were Googling him afterwards, and we were like, oh, Rudy. Rudy? Come on, buddy.
That dude's got a great PR person.
He does, and he also went to Notre Dame. It's it's college football heaven.
Yeah.
Okay. That one shot where he can't get into the game and it rises.
That's the best part of the movie. That's a good shot.
That's a great shot. The stuff when they're kids. You like the beginning where they're kids and they're playing.
Because it seemed like it was setting us up for.
What it was
journey.
What it was setting us up for was another hour of the exact same theme being bashed, and then there's the part where his brother starts fucking his fiance. You remember that?
Yeah, that's also and
they kind of drop it.
They just drop that in there for no reason.
Yeah,
and Rudy does nothing about it.
They really
kind of just sad.
They really kind of make Rudy a cuck. He kind of gets cucked out in the movie a few times. He really does. It's weird. It's a weird, and we were saying this too. It's got this inspirational kind of cheeseball-y feel, but they're saying fuck and twat and cunt.
Yeah.
It's got all these filthy words in it too that feel very out of place for what's happening.
But it's also rated PG.
Really?
Yeah.
They say cunt like 35
They don't say
times.
cunt. They call Rudy a pussy.
No, my goal is just to get you to say cunt on my podcast.
I say cunt on your podcast every time I come onto your podcast.
Yeah, you do. Okay.
I guess that's that.
We're going for like 40 minutes now. And look, I swore I wouldn't let you do what you did to Joker.
Also a bad movie.
Yeah, a movie that I enjoyed. We're in the theater. We're watching it, having a good time. I'm having a good time.
You're looking over at me with like tears in your eyes, and you're going, "This is the greatest movie ever."
And Liz
I'm sitting like with my arms crossed.
Yeah, Liz just doing a Lena Dunham impression in the theater, not liking Joker, and then trashing it afterwards and doing it effectively enough to where now I think Joker is kind of a piece of shit movie. Even though I will say, I feel like if you turn your brain off, it's got very appealing stuff in it. And I also love Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, I want to preface, this has nothing to do with sports, but I want to preface that like I was so stoked for that movie.
Which one, Joker?
For Joker.
How were you feeling about Rudy, though?
I was like, I was open-minded before going into Rudy. I love an inspiring sports narrative.
Okay.
And I was very excited for Joker. Remember, I watched the trailer multiple times. Like, I was hyped for that movie.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, like, some people think like, oh, okay, a girl didn't like Joker just because she's a girl. It was not. You
were more excited for Joker than I was.
We went like the day it came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we sat and you like wore like, you dressed up like the Joker. We sat in the very front. And you had like a Joker pom-poms. It was a whole thing. You were really into it.
Yeah.
What was the movie that we watched where the fat chick runs a marathon?
Brittany Runs a Marathon.
We watched that.
That's a good movie.
That was a great movie.
That's very inspiring.
That was very inspiring.
She's the real Rudy.
She's not the real Rudy.
She ran a marathon.
No, the real
Rudy did not run a marathon.
Look, you have to separate your criticism of the movie and the man, okay? The man committed securities fraud. He's a great man that played on Notre Dame. He played at Notre Dame as a 5'6" dude. Liz, he's 3 inches shorter than me. And he registered a sack. It's crazy. That's crazy. That is an accomplishment, even in a meaningless game. It's like, that just doesn't happen. There's no 5'6".
Look, I'm not saying that
right.
It's the way the story was presented made it way less inspiring than it could have been. They should have made that movie more of like a heartwarming, light comedy than like intense drama.
Yeah, and they should have just lied. They should have just made Rudy the quarterback, and he like wins the national
they don't need that.
title.
But there is a way to set up the stakes for what Rudy did accomplish and make it feel bigger and more important and more inspiring than they did.
This is Samwise Gamgee's name you're fucking with here, okay? This is Sean Astin.
Okay.
A great American actor.
He didn't write the movie.
He did. No, he did, for real. Did you know that?
No, he didn't.
It's the only...
I Googled the screenwriter.
Are you really going to do that? You're
What do you
Are you
mean?
going to trash the screenwriter?
No, but I wanted to know who wrote the movie.
Who wrote the movie?
I don't remember his name, but I Googled him.
Has he written anything else?
I don't know.
Like Battle... or like... What was that Scientologist movie? Battlefield Earth?
What?
I'm just trying to think of bad movies.
I don't know what that movie is.
You ever saw Battlefield Earth where like John Travolta's like a 10-foot alien?
No.
Really?
Yeah, it sounds like you're making it up.
No, it's like a 4-hour movie that's
no idea
all
what that is.
It's all an allegory for Scientology.
No, I've never seen it or heard of it.
And it's got Forrest Whitaker and John Travolta are like these aliens that come to Earth. And they have these it's pretty bad.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I remember my dad liked it though. My dad likes every sci-fi movie.
Yeah, he's a sci-fi guy.
He's a sci-fi guy. He likes Gattaca a lot.
Okay.
All right. Well, we've run out of things to talk about here. Congratulations
on convincing you to not like Rudy that much.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it does legitimately upset me.
I know. I'm sorry.
I don't like that you. I also think you prepared way more for this than I did, which is
I've just
dumb.
been ruminating on it for days.
Yeah, I just like kind of let it go because it's just a movie. I don't have to hate it that much. Jeez, like you get on me.
You know when something's like really hyped up and it like it's not just that it doesn't quite live the hype to the hype. but it's like the opposite. That's what I went through.
Yeah. I'm trying to, has there been a situation where I've turned you on a movie that you really liked?
Probably.
Yeah, I can't think of one though. Probably because it hasn't happened. And you're just trying to pretend like this is we do this all the time. But no, it's you talking me out of movies that I like.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't, it's my fault too. I didn't have to have you on the pod today. I brought this on myself.
Yeah. We should let the people go.
Let them go. I have like an hour and 20 interview after this. Like they're not even halfway through. Their journey's just
We've been
begun.
talking for too long. I'm trying to be conscientious of your audience's time.
Fuck my audience. They're fine. This podcast is going to be 2.5 hours
You
long.
guys can fast forward.
Yeah. Well, they can always do that.
Yeah.
A lot of people listen to podcasts on 1.5
know.
speed.
I can't do that.
No. You are much more worried about my audience's experience than I am. I never think of that when I'm doing the podcast. I think of how they annoy me. And they don't even they're not even doing anything.
Right.
But they still get on my nerves sometimes.
Can't be healthy.
Why? To have like kind of like a combative relationship with my podcast audience?
Yeah.
I just don't like how everybody like, kisses their audience's ass. A lot of people are like,
I don't think people
really have podcasts
do
and
that.
they're like, hey, my podcast is called Chocolate Chips. Hey, what's up, Chippies? Hey, how are all the chips? How's the chip gang doing?
Your fans have a name. Let's create an Erick Hellwig's Bringing the Backups fandom name.
Sheep.
All right, sheep.
No, they could be the backups. They could be the bench warmers.
Bench warmers is cute.
They could be the second string. How's my second string doing out there?
Nah, I like bench warmers. It's cute.
But bench warmers is already a movie.
So?
I just feel like bench warmers isn't like it's not unique enough.
Yeah.
Ruminate on this.
I'll think about it.
Let's do this. I'll come up with something I really like.
Rudy haters.
I'll come up with something. The what?
Rudy haters.
The Rudy hater? No, I hope. Let me say this. I hope this argument has convinced only me.
I hope so too. I don't want to ruin things that people love and get joy out of.
Are you sure about that? Because we've established a pattern.
I didn't invite myself on this podcast.
No, but you've been like you were in a bad mood the day after Rudy. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? And you're like, you've been trying to. You pretend like you don't want to change my mind, but you did it with Joker. You did it with this. Stay away from the Batman movies.
Joker's the only one that I didn't like.
I know, but I just don't want that tainted for me.
The thing about Joker.
Enough. All right. Thanks for coming on the show, Liz.
All right. Thank you. Love you. Bye.
To me.
Yeah. Not to your
Well, it sounded like you were saying.
No, I was saying it to you.
Why would you say bye to me though?
Because I'm gonna leave the room.
Well, don't leave the room. I'm gonna intro the interview that's coming next.
Well, why do I have to be here for that?
Because it'd be weird if you're rustling around.
Oh.
I mean, it's gonna take 10 seconds.
Right.
All right, this interview's done, and now we're gonna go to Colby Dant of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. You know him from the College Football Experience. Colby, good friend of the show. Hang out for the second interview. Liz, one last time, tell the audience, where they can find you and support your comedy.
It's at Liz Galalis across all social media platforms. My name is spelled... What?
Why did you sigh?
I don't know.
You sighed before I gave you a chance.
It's at Liz Galalis. My name is spelled Lizgalalis. At Liz Galalis.
All right, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks.
All right, here comes our interview with Colby.
Oh yeah, whoa, look, they can never keep me down, I'm going, and if I ever fail, just know I'll go again. I never quit, cause I know that every loss may lead to another win. I'm going up. I bet when I land, they gon' tell me it's luck again. See that I'm winning, it's harder to watch. I'm setting the stage, you should give me my prize.
That's a sweet shirt. I told you. I just noticed the 55 in his head.
Oh yeah, buddy. The boss.
Now, is he... it's Brian Bosworth. It's not a video podcast, so the audience is like, what the fuck are they talking about? Are those Seattle colors? Because he was with the Seahawks.
He was with the Seahawks, but obviously, became a bit of a legend at Oklahoma. He's just and became an action star after that. This guy did it all. He got ran over by Bo Jackson. He actually, that's the thing, is he was actually going to be You ever hear like Matt Millen, who
He wasn't bad. He wasn't a bad player.
he was going to be really good if he had not had that injury.
Yeah.
But I also think some of that injury might have been the steroid thing. I'm not sure because I've heard horror stories from the steroid era in the 80s with like cartilage and stuff.
Oh, like it just fucks you up?
Yeah, and I think I don't even recall off the top of my head what exactly his injury is, but I thought whatever it was, I thought cartilage had been a big issue there where maybe he had no cartilage, maybe it was bone on bone or something, but a lot of that I think was a result of the steroid thing. I shouldn't be, because I'm not factually, I thought it was some type of shit where like, I think he did steroids at Oklahoma and perhaps in high school. But yeah, he was a kick-ass player, man. He was like, back in the day, they just glorified defensive players better, in my opinion. Once again, I'm the Clint Eastwood, get off my lawn. You know what I mean?
They're gonna put dresses on them.
Dude, I watched like a game last week of like, who was it? It was like Bears Giants, I was watching another game and they're highlighting Bears Giants in the 80s. Or early 90s. It might have been, I think it was 1990 or 91.
Yeah.
And they're like, LT crushing quarterbacks against Singletary delivering the knockout blows, right? And it's like next Monday night. And I was like, fuck yeah, man, right? Like, that's the football I want to see.
Dude, I remember watching a clip of, I'm a Birds fan, so it was Ron Jaworski was playing against LT. And there was a series where LT sacked him 3 plays in a row. And Jaworski's a statue in the pocket. And it was like every time he got hit, 3 consecutive plays, it was like getting comically crazier. Like I was expecting a fucking stone cold stunner on the third one, or like a scissor kick to the back of the head. He's just like launching himself over the lineman and then punting him in the fucking dick. It was insane.
LT was like next level. Like he was like, I mean, just unbelievable. And I was actually reading an article recently that had it not been for the USFL, Belichick and Parcells were both sold on drafting Reggie White, but the owner didn't want a guy that might play in the USFL because Reggie White had been outspoken saying like, I'm going to whoever pays me more if the Memphis Showboats pay me more. And White was also from Tennessee, so they valued that as a risk pick because he was
really.
But can you imagine if they would have had LT and Reggie White? Oh man. They already won Super Bowls with LT and Carl Banks, or they ended up drafting that year, but getting Reggie White would have been crazy.
Wait, did they get 2 with those? How many? The Giants, I know they won the one with Parcells.
They got 2. They got 86 and 90.
Okay.
Both with Parcells. But they would have they went to NFC championships a lot, man. They had a good rivalry with the Niners. And I think even they played the Bears a couple times in the playoffs too. But it would have been crazy just to see both of them. But my main point was they highlight defensive players. It was now it's got to be the quarterback. It's got to be the quarterback. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter who it is. Kirk Cousins against Jimmy Garoppolo.
Well, this is the honest question. What could a defensive player do now to even put on a highlight reel? Like every when you watch highlight reels of your favorite defensive players from the 90s and like even the early 2000s, it's all a penalty. I mean, I like Brian Dawkins.
Yeah,
Brian Dawkins used to launch himself like a fucking bat and then club people in the back. That was his tackling style, was like, I'm going to clothesline you, making my body look like an eagle.
He was a great player. I mean, I was a big fan of Brian Dawkins. We actually have something in our studio of like a mural of Brian Dawkins. But yeah, I mean, look, I get it. You got to change the game because of the CTE thing, but not. I just think there's a better fine line there. I don't think you really change the game. I think you make those hits illegal. You fine the players, but they've kind of gone overboard with it to me, in my opinion. You know what I mean? I still love football. Still be watching every game, but I'll put it like this: I turned the Super Bowl off this year. I turned the Super Bowl. I couldn't do it, man. It was just too many flags. There's too many flags. I just said, I can't. And I had money on Tampa, so I still won money. But it was like I don't understand it. They're throwing pass interference on every play. And like I said, I had money on Tampa. I'm rooting for Tampa. The same exact plays were happening for Kansas City, and they're calling pass interference on them. You know what I mean? Like, I just didn't I'm like, I don't know what is what. it's like a gray area now. It's like in the 80s or 90s or even 2000s, I could sit there and say, oh, no, that's pass interference. And occasionally they'd miss some. But now it's like, I have no idea. But like, what is truly pass interference? Because they call one thing, and that's very next possession, that same will do the other team will do the exact same thing, and they won't call it. So it just leaves you in this really just appreciate the game.
It feels like it feels dirty in a way when you win, and you're like, half the calls could have gone the other way, and I wouldn't have even had a thing to say about it, because it's like, at least there was clarity when you watch old football games where you're like, okay, I know what a penalty is. They call a penalty. They call pass interference when the cornerback like knifes the receiver. You're like, okay, you're not allowed to do that. And besides that, it's legal. And like whether or not that's like, they needed to make changes, at least it was clear when you were watching it what you could do and what you couldn't do. Now it's like, if you're going to have it where like you just can't fucking tackle people anymore, at least just make it a clear rule so I can get used to it when I'm watching. But I feel like every play now, when the Eagles are on defense, like they make a tackle and I'm like, does that one count?
Yeah.
Does that one count?
You're holding your breath.
And you're like, I don't even know how you would fucking sack a quarterback like safely.
Well, that's the thing is like, I don't want to be coming on here and being all negative, but the reality is like, I don't find the game that more entertaining. I think it's worse. And the inconsistency is such a mess that it makes me, it just makes it like just, how about this? If you're going to call pass interference that often, just make it mandatory 10 yards. You can't do a spot foul on something that, I remember, I think Brady threw like a deep ball in the Super Bowl, and they caught like the receiver tripped on the corner's feet, right? But it was clearly overthrown.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
This is like a 50-yard penalty, right? Because, and I really think you could make the case that, I mean, to me, it's incidental contact. It was 100%, and I have money on Tampa. I'm rooting for Tampa. And I'm like, you can't call that. You can't, that's a 50-yard, that's a touchdown. Yeah. You're giving them a touchdown, essentially, because of that incidental contact. And I mean, just to get to the core of it, it all goes back to Bill Polian and Peyton Manning. Those guys are my nemesis.
Now, here's the question. Your winnings from the Super Bowl. Yeah. What charity did you donate that to because you felt wrong about winning? Who did
my girlfriend's charity, right? My girlfriend's charity. She got some probably a nice dinner and some cocktails out of it.
There you go. Are you guys, when you're treating your girl, are you guys more of like, you guys do like experience, like let's go out for dinner, let's go see a thing, or are you like a jewelry necklace kind of guy?
It's more experience. Mainly because I just haven't just been like, hey, jewelry's fucking expensive. Yeah, I'd rather I'm not getting any satisfaction out of the jewelry. If we go to a nice restaurant, then it's like, hey, well, at least I had, the pasta or whatever we got at the time. So,
How long have you been with your girl?
Well, we started seeing each other about 2 years ago, and then it was weird. We took like a break, mainly because I was out of town.
All right.
A lot, and then when COVID hit, started up again, and I'm actually gonna get married, man. October 10th.
Are you serious?
Yeah, October 10th, man.
Fucking congratulations! That's awesome.
Yeah. So it worked out. It was kind of a crazy situation.
When did this happen?
When did the
engagement?
Oh, that happened a couple weeks back. Yeah, a couple weeks back. So kind of all of this happened on the fly. I mean, I would have never thought because of COVID. I kind of had thought that relationship had moved along. I liked her, but I just thought, I was out of town every other weekend.
Yeah.
So and then when COVID happened, and it was like, hey, it's getting mighty lonely in this apartment. No, but then I got to see a completely different side of her and stuff. So it was great. And About I don't know, 6 weeks ago probably.
That's a silver lining for a world pandemic, right? You finding love in a really nice way.
I mean, that's the thing is like, I mean, it fits my life. Like I couldn't find love. It took a once in a century pandemic.
It took like 50 million people in India dying by the end of this sentence to make you fucking put a ring on it.
Right? Exactly, man. Exactly. So so we got that going. We're from different cultures, different countries, so that's good because she's on board with American football. That's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
First question I ask is like, what do you think of American football? She's like, I have no idea about it. Tell me about the rules. But I like the contact. And I go, yeah, me too.
Wait, where's she from?
She's from Colombia.
Okay.
Right?
Well, I mean, football in Colombia and also the rest of the world is still contact, but it's not fun.
Well, Colombia takes their soccer crazy. I mean, you remember that?
The
30
fucking,
for 30.
They killed the fucking goalie?
Yeah, exactly.
I think saying they take it seriously is a motherfucking understatement.
Well, I mean, look, as a gambler, we've all had that moment where the kicker misses the field goal and you think about it. Colombia they got drunk enough and they did something about it. You know what I mean?
Jesus Christ. I was saying on the podcast recently, like, whenever the U.S. is playing another country in soccer, I feel bad rooting for the U.S. Because I know, like, we don't really give a shit if we win. Yeah. But it matters other places. Like, it's fucking life and death. Like, these Iranians will never see their family again if we beat them 8-0. And we're just like, yeah, USA. I'm like, I'm a very patriotic person, not when the Olympics and when the World Cup comes around. I'm like, I want us out in the first round. I want as many people to live longer lives as possible. 100%. No one should die over this.
Like, I feel like when you watch, like, you know, like Russia or Ukraine or, I don't know, probably some random country, you're probably like, man, if they don't win gold, they might die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they at least got a place. You know what I mean?
What kind of asshole is hoping that, like, England beats Myanmar? Like, no, like, let them win. Like, they really fucking. I remember when Ghana beat the U.S. Yeah. That was fucking sweet.
Yeah.
Who was not happy about that?
Exactly, man. Exactly. Like, you got to be happy with that.
I think it was the women's team was dominating in soccer this year. They just fucking steamrolled everybody. They were beating some country like 11-2, and every time the U.S. women would score a goal, they were like, you know, telling the, you know, other goalkeeper to suck it and just being American and shit. And I was like, these women, they will not make it off the bus for wherever they're going back to. Like, we should fucking chill on how, like, do we need to beat them by 15 goals? It's not. I'm not trying to be a dick, but, like, fucking let up.
Let's lose all that, and we have the built-in excuse of, like, well, if Lawrence Taylor or you know, LeBron James played in, you know, soccer, we would just absolutely dominate you, and then they would just say no, and then we could move along. And I have no problem with our basketball team just lost to, like, France. I think
loving
it.
Loving it.
Have that all day. All right, but just know World War II happened. All right,
you fucking pussies. That's like my favorite, like, American point of ego is like, this thing that happened 50 years before I was born.
Dude,
suck my dick.
My
baby.
grandfather held a grudge though, but I guess it's his era, so you know.
Was your grandfather in the war?
No, he wanted to, but because of a back issue, he had to be that guy that stayed back where everyone else went. Mm-hmm. And he had a big problem, like, within himself about that. Like, you know, he felt like, man, a lot of my friends died in World War II, and because of my back issues, they did not want me to go over there. You would think he would just say, hey, come on, it's a back issue.
Yeah. All right? Yeah, he'd be like, he'd pretend to pull it as he's walking up to the regration table. Like, ugh, I felt a pinch there. My bad.
I mean, maybe he did, but apparently, like, from, like I said, I mean, he died when I was a kid, so it's like, it's not like I had a grown conversation about this, but my mom said it always bothered him.
My grandfather was in World War II for the Germans.
Really?
True story. He lived in Germany. He was born there, got drafted when he was 15 years old, and then got wounded at Normandy, captured by the British, traded to the Americans, was a POW in the United States. Then the war ended. He was, like, friends with his prison guard, and then he moved to America.
No shit.
And his prison guard was his sponsor to have him come back over.
Is that a fucking... Are you writing a screenplay on this?
I should. It's fucking crazy.
That's unbelievable.
His, like, prisoner of war, I'm a German kid during fucking Hitler stories are insane.
Wow.
Like, it's like, when you talk about it, something being another world, it's like...
And I like how you use the term traded. Like it was like like we're sitting in the... okay, I like what he brings to the table here. He's athletic. He's got this.
He's got some grenade shrapnel on his knee. I think that's going to affect him. That ACL's not looking good.
No, but that is wild, man. That's the thing, though, about... We're just... Like, our generation, what's the worst? 9/11, obviously, but I mean... Yeah. I mean, I was in D.C. at the time, so, like, that was... I don't know, where were you for 9/11?
In D.C., my dad worked in the Pentagon.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, he died. No, I just wanted to fuck
Jeez,
with you. I wanted to
okay,
make you
I'm
feel
like,
like shit.
hey.
No, we thought he was dead for the whole day.
Really?
Because remember in D.C., nobody.
Wait, he really worked for the Pentagon, though?
Yes, he was in the Pentagon.
Okay.
He was in the Pentagon. I'm like in class. And then, wow, this fucking, Jesus, we're really going into my grandfather in the war and 9/11.
Can't wait to see how you twist this into Jeff Blake.
If I do have a good transition later, I deserve a fucking medal for that. No, so I'm in school. I was going to school in Arlington in high school, and see the towers go in. We're all celebrating. I'm just kidding. No, we see the towers explode, and then the Pentagon comes up, and I'm like, holy fucking shit, that's where my dad works.
Jeez, that must have been crazy.
Nobody's cell phone works, so nobody can get a hold of anybody in D.C. because everybody was calling. So I go the whole day in school until almost like 3 o'clock. Like my last class was a religion class. I was in a Catholic high school. And they're like, Eric, come down to the office. Your mom's on the phone.
Oh, my God. That walk has got to be brutal.
And what was even worse was the class I was in. I've never told this story before. I don't think I'll cry. I won't.
I might, though.
Please do.
Yeah.
Let's lock eyes while I'm telling
There
it.
we go.
No, so the teacher had been like, please stop using your phones. You're clogging up the airwaves for people. Stop going home. Like, just stay. The ambulances need to get in. So I guess kids had been leaving. And so she thought I was just calling my mom to, like, leave school. So as I was getting up to go find out if my dad was dead, she goes, Eric, I'm so disappointed in you. Like, as I'm walking out of the fucking room. Anyway, I get there, and it's my mom, and they're like, whatever, he's alive.
Hey, that's still crazy. I mean, that's...
I've never said this either, but this is the end of the story. My parents were getting divorced at the time. Like, they had just separated. And I remember that night, it was not a good situation. But that night, we all went out to a family restaurant, and I was like, maybe they can get back together because we're all like really
showing
happy
this
and
love,
like it was like that's honestly the memory I have the most vividly from 9/11 was like, hey, family might be getting back together now. Kind of like your memory of COVID is going to be true love.
That's what I'm talking about. I guess that would be the second thing, though. Honestly, when you compare it to like my parents or my grandparents' life, it's like they lived through Great Depression, they lived through World War II, World War I, and no alcohol for a decade allegedly. That's pretty big. It's pretty big, catastrophic events going on in your life. Where ours are like, we get 9/11. I think maybe George Floyd might I think
that
be
counts.
There. Yeah, and then COVID.
Yeah, COVID. I think COVID's going to be the big one.
Yeah, I mean. Think about it. Well, they had one too. My grandparents had one too.
What do they have?
What the last pandemic we had was like
1919?
Yeah.
Spanish flu?
So I think my grandmother would have been like a 5-year-old then or something. I don't know. I don't remember what year she was born.
Do we give her credit if she was 5?
Just saying you lived through it, man, right?
All right, fair enough.
Just when you think about, I bug out sometimes just about like my dad tells stories. My dad was born in the late 40s. And he tells stories of like listening to a game on the radio. And I go, fuck, man, that's crazy. Now, they had no concept of what the internet would be.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, so in his lifetime, think about, he's listened to games on radios. He would remember, I think it was the Giants-Colts NFC Championship, known as one of the best games ever, or NFL Championship at the time. Unitas, he was like, we're listening to this on the radio. And then that transforms to that my dad gets a TV in the late 50s and they start watching games there. And then now you have the internet. Think about that though. By the time he dies, hopefully, we got some more years, some more decades left with dad. But I'm saying that's pretty crazy. So think about what our lifetime will be with sports wise.
Well, sports wise?
Yeah.
Sports wise, baseball will be gone, which makes me sad.
Do you think baseball will be gone?
I think I don't know. I
think there's a chance football could.
I think there's maybe even a better chance of football's gone.
Michael Moore, as much as I am not a big fan,
not a big fan of Double M.
Not a big fan of the mother from Goonies, but he's like by 2050 there'll be no football, and I'm like, you fucking get out of here.
He might not be wrong.
I'm thinking though the money is too substantial.
Yeah, they'll find a way to keep making money on it. I mean, I feel like that
protects it.
That protects it.
Yeah.
It protects it and it like dooms it at the same time.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, I want there to be another league to compete with the NFL. I feel like that would be so fucking good.
The United States Football League. It's got me excited, this news, even though they haven't released anything besides Doug Flutie just having a video saying, hey, it's coming back. And Fox is a partner.
Well, you don't think the XFL could do that too?
I do, but I have more hope for the USFL. Like the XFL,
It's too tied to wrestling.
That's what I'm saying. And
it's too tied to
like
wrestling.
they changed. Look, I still watched the heck out of the XFL, right?
Oh yeah, I did too.
And I'm the type of guy that football or basketball, if it's on,
you watch it.
I'm watching it. I don't care if it's a pickup game in Puerto Rico. You know what I mean? Like I'm in.
Yeah.
But I just think the USFL. I just want to see football kind of say, push back a little bit. Like I want the real kickoff. I don't like the XFL kickoff.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I'll give them credit because I think they're trying to keep it in the game. But I want the real kickoff. Like to me, yes. Injuries happen, guys. All right? There's risk. You're never going to make the game unriskable. You know what I mean? So it's like, I know I have this staunch opinion of like, oh, well, and I don't even know as a guy that, I never played at a real level, like a real elite level, but I'm saying like, I don't even know that I buy in. I kind of thought that the NFL's marketing as a ploy in case they did come for them is that, well, more injuries happen on special teams. So that if you got rid of special teams, it wouldn't really ruin the game. I don't know that I really believe that more injuries happen on special teams, though.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's one of those stats that you'll find out and you'll be like I remember reading a stat that the most injuries happen in baseball. And I was like, well, that seems like...
You play 162 games.
You play 162 games, and most baseball players are terrible athletes. So that's why. They have one very specific skill.
Remember Gary Gaetti, just a fat-ass first baseman? Now, he was a damn good player, but yes.
Sure, dude. Who was the guy on the Giants that was good for a couple seasons? Big dude.
Recently, or what era are we talking?
I think he's still in the league now, but he was good on the Giants. They called him like Panda Man. Panda Bear.
Oh,
Big Bear.
No.
Fat Bear.
No, I know you're talking about.
Pedro Sandoval.
Yes.
Okay, the fact that a guy could be that clearly out of shape. Mo Vaughn.
Yes.
John Kruk. One of my favorite
And I love John
players.
Kruk.
Who doesn't love
But
John
that's
Kruk?
also what made baseball so unique. See, like I said, I feel like I'm this negative guy whenever I enter these conversations. But the innocence of the sports are gone in a way. You know what I mean? Like I like the fact that your traditional first baseman was out of shape and looked like probably was your mechanic. You know what I mean? Like I kind of dug that era of sports where now there's so much money involved. It's almost like, how?
I remember there was a guy on you remember the Twins in like the early 2000s had this great, like they were a small ball defense baseball team. And they had a first baseman named Doug Minkiewicz, one of the great names.
I remember him, yeah.
And he was like this kind of like slender, in shape, defensive-minded first baseman. And I was like, tell that motherfucker to gain 60 pounds before he goes anywhere near first base. I don't like that. I don't like the first baseman looking all fucking svelte and like a fucking Abercrombie model. Fuck that. Big, fat dude, like smoking a cigarette during the game. That's what first base is for.
Dude, it's like in basketball. I mean, there should be, you want to talk about a pandemic. There was a pandemic, and I think me and you talked about this a little bit when we did some stand-up on white men. Like tall white men. Like that. Look, there were some players that could legit play, but there was a lot of what I call lawn chairs, right? And I used lawn chairs in football for like a very unathletic quarterback that was very lucky to be in the 80s or 90s because he would never cut it in today's league. But especially in basketball, during the NBA in the 80s, I'd say from 1984 to like 2004, you had like a 20-year window where they just stole money. Like Todd McCullough was just stealing money.
My God,
you know what I mean? Like, God bless him, but I'm saying like he got a gigantic contract and he really couldn't do anything besides take up space.
Let's keep going Sixers. I got Matt Geiger for you.
Yes.
How about Matt Geiger dropping an 18-footer and being like, this guy's got game.
He was more skilled than McCullough.
He could shoot.
Yeah, he was more
Geiger
skilled
could
than
shoot.
McCullough. Yeah, but he get your point.
Sucked.
Yes, I mean, I grew up a Bullets fan, so like Jim McElwain was one that just completely stole money. The Sonics, he played good for like 2 weeks when Murasan was out, which is even more hilarious. But the Sonics gave him like an $80 million contract, and you're just like, what? This guy couldn't score in a gym by himself. You know what I mean? Like Chris Dudley. Remember Chris Dudley for the Knicks? I mean,
Luke Longley.
So many. I mean, literally, there should be a 30 for 30, but how much money they stole. Because they stole money. There's no other way to break it down. And if I was a black athlete at the time, I'd just be furious. You're like, what does he do? What does he do? My cousin Steve can do the same fucking thing. You know what I mean? Like,
dude, I fully agree with you. Yeah, I think I don't know what that is, but like, did you? We might have talked about this at the stand-up show too. I don't remember, but the Kwame Brown stuff.
Oh, I mean, what stuff specifically?
All of it.
Okay,
I love it.
Yeah.
To me, that was like a redefining, because like when I think of Kwame Brown, I mean, I was in D.C. when he was drafted. That was 2001. That's when Jordan was back. And I was like, he's literally my age. And I remember with my friends being like, this dude fucking sucks. Fuck you. And I'm not even a Wizards fan. Just like, it's fun to shit on something and the snowball's already going. Yeah. I'll help push that down the hill. And then to look back on it now and be like, he played in the league for, 12 years.
Yeah.
Fucking generational, life-changing money for his family. Was 17 years old and had psychopath Michael Jordan screaming in his ear. Straight up child abuse. Straight up, like, what the fuck is happening?
I grew up with a guy that was a ball boy for the Wizards. And he told me a story of Michael Jordan, like, apparently, like, he would come to watch practice and like crack open a 6-pack or 12-pack and just take it down. You know what I mean? By himself. And then one time he got pissed at Kwame Brown's effort in practice. And allegedly the story is that he had like a 6-pack or 12-pack. I'd have to ask him again. But and then he beat Kwame Brown 1-on-1. He was like 45 drunk. Beats him 1-on-1 because he gets pissed. And after you watch that Bulls documentary, you're like, oh yeah, he did this. Oh, it's 100%. This is not an urban legend.
I like there's a weird balance right now, like in sports, where it's like we're all very concerned with the mental health of the athletes. The mental health is important, you know.
Not me.
Well, that's good. It's good to hear.
I'm like, you signed up. You signed up. It's like everyone on Twitter was talking about Carson Wentz. I feel sorry for him. He's injured. Motherfucker signed a $100 million contract. I have no sympathy for you. All right? I have zero sympathy for you. You agreed to play the game, and he got injured in non-contact too. But I'm saying
Teddy
like
Bridgewater style.
Yes. Look, my thing is like, whatever. You made $100 million, dude. I feel now if it's the college player, like I remember. Anthony Poindexter was a safety from Virginia that ended up playing. He's actually the co-defensive coordinator of Pitt or of Penn State right now, but he elected to come back his senior year, and he would have been like a first-round draft pick. And he had a really bad knee injury, and then he ends up never. Basically, I think he might have been in a camp for the Cleveland Browns, but that one I felt like damn, because I was always an advocate of like GoPro. Oh, go pro! I don't care if you get your chance to make money, go.
To even say like professional athletes have a small window is unfair to a small window. It is. It's like right now, the second you can do something to better your position to make money immediately, you have to fucking do it.
But that's how we knew our society was racist as shit, though.
What do you mean?
I remember in the 90s. Like I'm just gonna pick a player randomly. Like Rasheed Wallace is coming out as a sophomore. They'll say, "Oh, you know, he should have stayed in school." They would always like Tim Duncan stayed in school, and more credit to him. But I'm saying like they used him as like this model example, and they made like Rasheed Wallace look like the biggest piece of shit. Like he was like, he's he could only take 1 year at UNC or 2 years at UNC. I always felt like there was a
racial thing to it.
I always thought that, man.
Well, dude, I think there was that with even Kwame Brown, like because he was straight from high school and they didn't want, I don't think the NBA or the NCAA wanted people doing that. They wanted the athletes to have to come through the colleges. So they were like, let's hope this guy fucking sucks. Everybody pile on and let's make the name Kwame Brown a fucking laughingstock. And so it kind of like scared other high school athletes to be like, I don't want that kind of fucking attention.
That's why
people would do like the one and done, like the Carmelos at Syracuse and all that stuff. I think all that shit is like coordinated. And also, we want to talk about how we can talk about racism in the 90s affecting sports. Here's the proof I need. I do a show about backup quarterbacks. Scott Zolak, his like career numbers at Maryland, he was like 12 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, and he got drafted in the 4th round.
Yeah. Well,
That's what happens when you don't let black dudes play quarterback in the 90s. Is Scott Zolak keeps his job and then gets fucking drafted.
I mean, this is 100%. Like, I am 100% on board with the fact how racist it was. I witnessed it. You know, I know we're supposed to talk about Jeff Blake, and it's funny because I've had Jeff Blake on my show, and I'm a big Jeff Blake fan. First off, I think he was a really underrated quarterback, was on a bad team. But I remember, and I told Jeff this on our show, like actually on the actual show, was that I remember a time when you're a kid, you're blind of race, right?
Yeah.
At least for me, it was like that. You didn't really think of it in any negative way or anything, or you just didn't know. You just didn't know. You're just dumb. And I remember, the Redskins won a Super Bowl with Doug Williams in 87. And I was at like a party, like my uncle had some type of party. He was in the Army, so it was at an American Legion in Maryland. And I remember going there and hearing this conversation that a black quarterback couldn't win a Super Bowl. It wasn't from my uncle, but I'm saying a group of people were having this conversation at this party.
Yeah.
And I said,
what year was that?
This is probably like 91, 90, something in that vicinity, maybe even 92 or 93, right? And I remember on the way home asking my mom and dad saying, didn't Doug Williams already won a Super Bowl? It makes no sense. He has 10 fingers just like us. Why would, as a kid, you can't make sense of it. You're like, what do you mean? It's like Art Monk's their wide receiver. He's like one of the best in the NFL. What the hell are you talking about, right? And I remember my dad just telling me, like, those are idiots. Like, but that was legit. And I just believe there was too much talent. My brother brought this up recently. My older brother, he was like, college football was way ahead of the time, because when you think about the most athletic players, for the most part, they are black athletes, right? Yeah. And he was college football with, like, Charlie Ward was an unbelievable athlete that played in the NBA, and probably in today's, if Charlie Ward was in college right now, he probably would have been a 1st or 2nd round draft pick.
Well, what did he play in college?
He was quarterback at Florida State, won the Heisman Trophy. Yeah. But he was a little undersized, but like nothing crazy. He's like Russell Wilson's height or something. I mean, I think he was like 6'1", actually. So maybe 6 foot, something like that. I had to pull it up, but there was like a stereotype back then of like, hey, they can't play the game, and it was like ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And Jeff Blake, I think, was one that when he completely agreed with me when I said that. He was like, dude, imagine he only had one scholarship. To
ECU?
Yeah, that was the only one that everyone wanted to make him a wide receiver or corner. Ugh. So East Carolina was the only one to offer him, only D1 school to offer him a scholarship to play quarterback. Steve Logan was the head coach at the time. But I mean, that he had great stats in high school at Florida too. So it was like, it made no sense.
And he was fucking sick.
Yeah.
In college.
Yeah, and he got drafted by the Jets. And then ends up, Bruce Coslett drafted him by the Jets, and then Coslett became the head coach of the Bengals, and the Jets had cut him, I think, and then he was like, dude, come play for us in Cincinnati. But, I mean, at that whole time, I'm still convinced, like, Randall Cunningham's situation, I think, is much like Jeff Blake's, but in a way, Cunningham might even be more talented.
I think Cunningham is, you're talking about. Now you've entered my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
I think he's at the time was the most physically gifted athlete in the world. That's like when you watch his highlight reels of things he could do on the field.
But he was drafted by a coach. We just had Jim McMahon on my show last week, right? Or 2 weeks ago, one of the two. And I asked him about playing for the Eagles and Buddy Ryan. Because I think I had seen that they had a good friendship. Doing my homework, I had seen that they had been good friends, and he goes, I love Buddy Ryan, but he's the worst head coach in the worst. He's a great defensive coordinator, but he would never invest in offense. Like he goes, if we're down 7 with 5 minutes left in the game, he's like, okay, we'll punt. We'll do 3 runs and we'll punt and we'll get an interception for a touchdown. God. That was his philosophy. Well, Randall Cunningham couldn't have been drafted by a worse team. Yeah. Because me and Pat, my buddy Patty C, were like, we always say, like, can you imagine if Bill Walsh or Marv Levy or any of the Ted Marchibroda had grabbed Randall Cunningham or Jeff Blake or someone of that magnitude. Jeff Blake threw one of the best deep balls. I've heard Dan Marino talk about that. Dan Marino said, like, dude, Jeff Blake's deep ball is the best deep ball I've ever seen. Right? That's my point, though, is like Randall Cunningham with that capability running, even more so than Blake, he just would have been. I just think he would have shattered every record book.
Yeah, I mean, they were very much. It was like one read run. Yeah, and like he
even calls Buddy Ryan even calls him like a thoroughbred. I just let my thoroughbred sit back there. That's racist as shit, probably too. But I'm saying like, but he's like, I just let him sit back there and do whatever. And I get it. Like the guy's an unbelievable athlete, so you're just trying to put the ball in the best athlete's hands. But at the same time, just imagine if you saw it when he was 38.
Minnesota.
When he was 38 years old,
well,
he led the league.
He was also throwing to Randy Moss and Chris Carter. Yeah. But yes, and when he's way past his prime, it's all there for him to be a guy that can sit in the pocket and read a defense and fucking do it.
And Jeff Blake would have been. The Bengals were probably the worst franchise. Like at least the Eagles had good defenders and they would have a decent offensive line. The Bengals, once Paul Brown died, like they just phoned it in, man.
Who was the second best player on the Bengals besides Jeff Blake? I know it was like the mid '90s. They went like 7-9 and 8-8. Like
Carl Pickens was a beast. Yeah,
glory years for the Bengals fans.
But that was only because
it's Carl Pickens. That's what I was going to say.
But they never had their O-line.
Yeah.
They never invested in, and even when we talked to Jeff Blake, like he was saying, like, if they had just they never invested, not only for him, but for the other quarterbacks too. David Klingler was a first-round draft pick for them. Achilles Smith. Maybe those guys wouldn't have been good regardless. Who knows? But I'm saying for Blake, I 100% believe it. I remember my dad would sit there and say, like, man, if Jeff Blake was on another team, he would have been pretty good. Like, I mean, he was still good. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying he never got to like go to a playoffs. As a starting quarterback. So I think people's perception of him was just like, he's kind of there. But he made a Pro Bowl. He led the league led the AFC in passing touchdowns one year.
Yeah.
So it's like, I know for sure, like, just play it out differently. Like, certain teams knew how to handle quarterbacks. Look at the Niners, even without Walsh. They went pretty much from Montana to Young to Jeff Garcia. I mean, that's... Because they were very, first off, they had Jerry Rice, but they were very smart as a front office. And my point is like if you get drafted by any other team, Cunningham too, they would have been unbelievable and they would have set the league on fire, in my opinion.
Even the 49ers, what they did with Alex Smith, you remember like their ability to kind of like ride that out?
And I was a skeptic. I was a huge skeptic of Alex Smith.
You didn't like his Utah tape?
I just thought it was a gimmick offense at the time, and that was Urban Meyer, and that's what's funny. Like now, I've come full circle, and I think like someone asked me the other day, like, do I think Urban Meyer can work for Jacksonville? And I'm like, the college game is kind of now in pro. It didn't used to be like that. Like 15 years ago, I don't think Urban Meyer could have been a successful coach in the NFL. Now I'm like, yeah, I could totally see that working.
Yeah,
the game has changed. So, but. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just think Blake and Cunningham and guys like that. There's other really good quarterbacks. Charlie Ward, I think, would have been very good in the NFL. I really believe that. Warren Moon was a beast. That guy actually put up the numbers in the run and shoot, but
didn't go to the NFL for the first couple of years, right?
Yeah, had to go to the Edmonton Eskimos. Yeah. But the black quarterback thing, 100% real. I 100% believe that.
To me, like the big turning point was Jamarcus Russell getting drafted number 1. Not Jamarcus Russell. Fuck. Who's the guy?
I mean, he had...
Well, yeah, him, but not him. It was the guy from Florida State. I'm forgetting his name. Winston.
Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston going 1 after stealing shit, after having like the fucking rape shit at Florida State and still going number 1. I was like, okay, that's an indicator. That's an indicator that we're making some progress, that this dude isn't buried before he even gets to the NFL.
I mean, dude, he stole crab legs. Look, I don't know anything about the rape case. I'll be honest. It's like the Kavanaugh shit when they asked me that. I'm like, I have no idea, right?
Yeah.
But the crab legs, I'm like, I get it. It's great to make fun of these athletes. You can make a great meme of it. But it's like stealing crab legs. I mean, have we all done dumb shit in our life before? It's not a big fucking deal.
Still crab legs down your pants?
I never stole crab legs, but I'll be honest, it's probably because I wasn't smart enough to think about that. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I mean, like, I, as far as the rape case, though, I have no idea. I mean, I know that sometimes these guys are targets, but I also know that sometimes they're completely guilty of it. Like the Darius Geis situation I read, that I know he's a running back, but
oh yeah,
that
dude,
one
that
I was like,
one's
what the
brutal.
fuck? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
But no, I definitely think black quarterbacks have been hated on for a long time, man. And they were always, I mean, go back to the days of like James Harris in the 70s with the Rams. He was really good. Doug Williams. That's one I mentioned. Doug Williams, like, yeah, he won a Super Bowl late on the Redskins, but when he was on the Bucs, he took them to the NFC Championship when they were a bad team.
Yeah.
But he was really good. He was like really, really, really good. If you go back and study the film, you'll be like, you could watch him in the USFL, but he was severely underpaid, which was, I just believe that owner was incredibly racist. Probably wasn't happy with having a black quarterback, but he was a fucking beast. Doug Williams. In today's era, Doug Williams would have been a fucking monster.
Looked good in that Tampa Bay uniform.
Yeah,
playing for
the
Bucs, dude.
creamsicles, so beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful.
If we go down this path, we'll talk about it for 30 minutes. But it's the best uniform in football history, I would say.
Please bring that back. I saw that the NFL got rid of their like
stupid helmet.
Yes,
got to be the same color as the.
Because I think the Bucs' current ones are horrible.
Yes, well, they got marginally better because they changed the alarm clock number on it.
Yeah.
But it's like you have to lean into the shit that you're known for. People know what you are. You have creamsicle jerseys and a gay pirate on your helmet. That's what you do.
It was like a campy feel, and I think that's what I miss. That's what I'm saying is like.
I think you would feel better about the defensive rules on tackling if everybody wore their shit from the 90s. That's honestly, I think that would make a big difference. Right. That would make if the Patriots went back to a dude about to snap the ball on their helmet. If you had creamsicle.
Yes, I do. Yeah. Let me ask you this, though. I was watching, I'm in all these, like, old Facebook groups. Well, a lot of it is when I have, like, Jim McMahon on my podcast or something, so I can go drop it in these groups where it's, like, NFL 1980s or something like that.
Yeah.
So I sign up for all these groups. So my Facebook page, I don't find out about my friend that's, needs a kidney transplant. Instead, I see like, hey, why the 1986 Indianapolis Colts ran the wishbone offense for a couple games. You know what I mean? Like, but
wait, what happened to Mom? How long ago? I missed the funeral. Fuck. Well, good. The good news is Jim Sorgi was underrated, and I didn't miss out on that.
Exactly. So, dude, they were having a conversation, though, like the NFL 80s group that I was in, or maybe, yeah, it was 80s, about how Musburger and they would have Jimmy the Greek and stuff, but they were announcing the games. They were showing a bunch of different clips on this thread, and they're saying they let the game breathe. The announcers let the game breathe more. And I said, you know what? I think there's something there because now we overanalyze everything and we overtalk about everything, even the announcers.
Yeah.
I think that's also like part of what I like about old school football is when you just let the game. I think it's just like a bottle of wine or something. You know what I mean? Like if you let it breathe, like Musburger was kind of classic, but he wouldn't overanalyze or make it like very poppy. He would never like. I mean, I guess Madden kind of did, but I don't know. I just felt like that statement had merit to it. I had never analyzed it like that. When I saw someone quote that, I said, you know what? I think they're right.
It's interesting because I think of like famous moments in like famous sports calls, and it's never like the guy's talking and he's talking and he keeps talking and he won't stop talking. Yeah. It's like a crazy thing has happened. Crowd noise, crowd noise, crowd noise. It's happening. Crowd noise, crowd. It's like, yeah, I think there's like, I don't know, man. It's also just like, I think it's like a generational thing. I think people used to keep more to themselves. I think people used to like keep secrets. I think they used to just talk less, period.
You're probably right.
Wouldn't talk about your feelings.
That's true.
You don't feel as much of a need
much
to
better era. No, but no. I mean, but nowadays, like you take Tony Romo, which I think is a decent announcer, but at the same time, I still think when I was able to assess this, and then I put on or I do it on NFL Network a week later, and it was a game from last year or something. I said, they're right, because like, look, he's analyzing and he's so judgmental on every single play. The announcer is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and he's saying, oh, they should have, and I just thought, yeah, I agree. I think that the game was better from an announcing standpoint back. Maybe it's just, once again, get off my lawn.
Yeah, I had Jabron Hamden on my show, and he was talking about the thing Tony Romo's doing is not special if you're a quarterback. Like he was saying, like I would get cut. I remember getting cut from the Seahawks, and I'm with my dad at a game in the stands. It was a little weird, haven't been on the team. But I would just look at the defense and be like, Juravicius, 20-yard out, touchdown. He's going across to lock it, blah, blah, blah. And then the guy next to him was like, hey, man, can you knock it off? Like, I'm trying to watch I don't like you calling the plays before they happen. Yeah. It's like there's a part of it where it's like, Tony Romo, shut the fuck up. Like, it's not a fucking magic trick.
Yeah.
I don't want to have like a cloth pulled out of my fucking sleeve
and the
right
camera
now.
the camera's evolved so much also that like you get these replays super fast. And that's fantastic, I think, though, the development of all this. But at the same time, I just think before, like, the announcer would just occasionally say, like, I thought it was a hold on the right tackle. But you never really got, like, it just breathed. The game was the game, and the announcer was, like, kind of like, a condiment. You know what I mean?
Well, think about this, too. The money, to me, it always goes back to money. Because, like, we think about football. When a quarterback wins the Super Bowl now, they're like, I just spit in your eye?
No, I think it's just my contact from I've only had these contacts in for a couple of years.
All right.
Yeah. I'm not only retro in my games, I keep my contacts for, back from the early 2000s.
Gotcha.
Fucking around.
No, it's like when quarterbacks win the Super Bowl now, they're going to Disney World. Mm-hmm. But in the beginning, quarterbacks would win the Super Bowl and then go back to their night job in a factory because you made like $13 playing playing football. So I think it's like back then there was less money in it. It was not as popular a sport as it is. So I think like now it's like everybody sees it as like it's such a like opportunity to move up and be in the public eye in a way that it wasn't before. It's probably a lot harder to not be like, I want to insert myself as an announcer. Like I feel like that's what everybody's incentivized to do, is to have their moment in it versus like...
Yeah, you're probably right. I think there's something there to that.
I think sports used to be a little bit less, about constantly expanding. I think they're and when they began, it was like, this is a thing that we're doing that people like to watch.
Yeah.
And now it's like, it's so bottom line driven. I feel like it kind of like... Yeah, it's hard to just sit back and enjoy it because it's like there's so much on the fucking line with every second of it,
Well, they to me, like, and I know this is a show we're going to be talking about, a quarterback where we're talking about Jeff Blake and stuff, but they glamorized the quarterback too much to me now. It's like, they're like, oh, and like the Aaron Rodgers situation. I'm like, okay, he's decent. All right, he's very good.
He's decent.
But I just thought they overdo it to me.
He's pretty good, dude. He's better than decent.
But he kills me. As a football player, there's many times in his career, one of them was in the NFC Championship, where he rolls out and he could run it in for a touchdown. But he doesn't. And maybe he's afraid of the contact. I don't know. But look, I love the way he throws the ball. It's incredible. But at the same time, it drives me crazy because it's like, dude, you're a football player. You're 4 yards from the end zone, and it's wide open for you to run in there, and you're sitting there waiting for the pass. It drives me absolutely crazy. You know what I mean? Like, And it's like, I don't know. I just feel like we make such a big deal of the quarterback now as opposed... I mean, and granted, yes, the evolution's happened. We've protected the quarterback, and they've also gotten a lot better and more accurate. But it's just... I miss like...
You want to go back to the highlights where they're like, and looks like they've beaten them over top with a forward pass. Oh, look at the forward pass. Yeah, I haven't seen that since Army beat Notre Dame 3-0 in the Ice Bowl.
I am pro wishbone offenses, all right, and triple option attacks. But no, I don't know. I just feel like, we overanalyze.
Would you... This is a question I have. This has been the most Get Off My Lawn podcast I've done, and I support it. This is a nostalgia podcast.
Thank you, man.
This is the current that runs under everything I say. Is why not more like when I was 10? So I'm with you. Would you say that you had this type of view of did you have this vibe when you were younger, where you were still or this is a recent development for you?
It's recent. I mean, I thought, yes, okay, like if you look at Joe Montana or something, they would a little bit overanalyze. Like, he was fantastic, but I still thought like they really kind of catered to him more than any other quarterback in that era of the 80s or 90s. But now it's like, it's just they beat it into you. You know what I mean? That it's like, okay, Okay, dude, I get it. I know Tom Brady's 41. You know what I mean? Or whatever age he is. Like, I just feel like it's exhausting. Like, they just have to make it, oh, my God. Oh, my God. Did you know that Russell Wilson stubbed his toe last week? And he's playing. He's playing in this game.
I think, do you watch a lot of ESPN?
I mean, I have to. We keep it on. So,
It's driving, I can tell it's hurting you.
Well, it's NFL, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Even when we have the guest on.
You gotta turn, I know it's your job.
Yeah.
You gotta turn it off. You know what happened to me? When I went to college, I mean, in high school, I was the sports editor for my high school paper. I went to Christopher Newport University in Virginia because,
I'm familiar with it.
Because I knew somebody that was working on the paper that said, nobody here wants to cover the football team. And I was like, so if I come to that school, I get to be the fucking guy in the booth covering the team, I'll do it. And so I started doing that, and I did it for my freshman year and my sophomore year, and then I quit. And the reason I quit is because I was watching so much football, and I was having to report on the team and talk to the coaches and fucking do little questions for everybody and all the stuff you do as a beat reporter. And I started to hate watching football. I was like, this is annoying. It's annoying to me now. Like, I don't like dealing with the coach's bullshit. Like, he makes a stupid call, and I'm like, why'd you do that? And he's like, because I felt like it. And I'm like, you fucking type A douchebag. And it just sucked. And it started to, so I went away from it for years and, didn't do anything.
Just when you thought you were out, they pull you back in.
The thing I like about this podcast is because I feel like I'm coming back to it, and I talk a little bit of sports, but it's still enjoyable to me. As a new friend in my life, I'm worried that it's gonna.
I still love it.
All right,
I still love it. The penalties drive me crazy.
All right,
but that FCS spring football we just had, the division FCS is like the subdivision of the Division I.
I know, yeah.
I loved it. I loved every minute about it.
Yeah,
and I can't get enough of it because it's like they're not good enough.
Do you know why it was great?
Why is that?
Because nobody else was watching it.
But do you think that's the psychology of my brain of, hey, no one's liking this? I think it's also because the game is innocent.
It's because nobody else is there. That's what it is. Dude, how many, I can think of, what kind of music are you into?
I mean, I like it all. I really like it all. I'm a fan of anything from the Beatles to, current artists I like a lot. So
I liked pop punk emo in the early 2000s, and that's it.
Okay.
That's the only thing I'll listen to. I'll turn off Prince to listen to My Chemical Romance. That's how I roll. So I used to do Warped Tour a lot. And I remember I went to my first Warped Tour, and I was talking with some guy, and he goes, hey, man, there's this thing I do. It was a guy who had one of the backstage passes, and he just looked like a kid like me. For some reason, I don't know why I did it. I asked him how he got it. Well, what band are you fucking working with? And he's like, I just show up at the gate at 6 a.m. the day that the Warped Tour gets into town, and I just ask to help build the stages, and I can show up, and they give me a pass, and I come in, and then I get to go backstage and meet everybody. And I was like, all right.
Nice.
So the next year, I did it, and I was the only person there. And I was like, this fucking rocks, and I got to go backstage. I met Thursday and Thrice, and Blink-182 was there, and I got to hang out backstage, not talking, just sitting in the corner being I can't believe my fucking favorite bands are here. And then like an idiot, I started telling people about it.
And then people started doing it.
Yeah, by the fifth year, there was 80 people lined up at 6 a.m. I couldn't even fucking get in to build the stages. So it's like that's what it is. It's like when you're the first to the party, you're like, this party fucking rocks. Look at this. Look at all this FCS football that nobody even knows about.
I get the psychology on that, but I want to push back and just say this. Let me explain to you why on several levels. Mike Leach has been on our show a bunch, right? True friend of the program. And we've talked to Mike about, he said back in the day the NFL was innovating. Now college innovates. The NFL just picks up we asked him. Cliff Kingsbury's his former quarterback at Texas Tech. Yeah, he's hired to be the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, and he says, "I was like, what do you think? How will he do?" And he goes, "Well, my problem with the NFL is he's just a puppet in a way. He's the offensive coordinator. They put him at head coach, but the owner hired his own defensive coordinator, his own special team. So are you even a head coach, right?" Yeah. And I thought, man, and he goes, yeah, and he goes, it used to be innovating. Each team would have a different, offense and defense, and now it's a copycat league, right? And I felt that way for a long time. I've been saying that, but I didn't know that Kingsbury got it on those terms. But then I thought, yeah, and to me, it's like they have nowadays coaches have to wear the same clothing. There's a protocol for the clothing they can wear as a coach. That's horrible. So Bum Phillips or something back in the day with that cowboy hat or whoever. And that's a lot of the personality that makes the game unique to me.
Yeah.
And also, I think there's merit to that. Like, why do I find college football, is my heart's in college football? It's because I like that Navy's running a triple option attack and they're going up against the air raid and Mike Leach or whatever. It's more pure to me. The game is kind of what the game I fell in love with in the NFL in the 80s and 90s is because there was personalities. You know what I mean? Like now every NFL coach, it's like a corporate, it's like you're at California Pizza Kitchen.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it's like before you would have Buddy Ryan that would say, now I know that we knocked him for perhaps saying that racist thing, but you know that he would also that was his personality. I don't think he's a racist because I've seen players talk about Buddy Ryan. Now that statement might be racist, but I don't believe he's racist. But he was his own persona. And it was completely different than Tom Landry, which was completely different than Mike Ditka, completely different than Joe Gibbs. And I just felt like the characters and each one's running the West Coast offense. The Niners running the West Coast offense. The Oilers are running the run and shoot. The Bears are going to ground and pound. You know what I mean? And I felt like the uniqueness of the game was like, oh, the Steelers of Blitzburg. Oh, you're going to go there and they have Neil O'Donnell, but their linebackers are fantastic. They're going to blast you. Now everything's the same. So I lose interest in it.
I think it's half that, and I want to button that, and then I want to push back on your pushback from my original point. Do you remember when the Lions hired Dan Campbell and he did that press conference? And he was like, "We're gonna fucking bite off their cocks and then spit it back in their mouth. And once they poop it out, we're gonna eat that and whatever they did." It was amazing, and there was so many people being like, "Look at this fucking unprofessional shit," and I'm like, this is the only thing I liked about this is the part of the NFL that used to be fun,
dude. That made me excited.
But these corporate hacks at like big media companies like ESPN or FS1
and Twitter, they
can't even just enjoy it. They can't even enjoy that there's somebody talking and fucking going off at the hip. It's got to be attached to like, oh, this is a brand and protect the shield and all that fucking nonsense. So I'm with you on that.
But you don't think that's part of? I
think it's half.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. That's fair.
To go back to your FCS, why you liked FCS so much. The other half is that you and 3 other people know how good Colgate's defense was 2 years ago, and you like that it's just you.
That could.
And if
could
80
be right.
other people are, if you are having a conversation with a guy that doesn't know football that well, and he starts referencing how good Colgate's defense is, you're going to be like, "Fucking FCS football sucks." Because I still love
FBS. I still love FBS. I mean,
you got a podcast where you're talking about the Tulsa Golden Hurricane for 45 minutes. You clearly like the part where less people are there.
Sure. I think there's something to that. I'll admit.
All right.
I'll admit that.
I might be mapping my stuff onto you a little bit, but when I did your podcast, we did the Eastern Michigan episode. I'm like, this is the compelling shit. This is the stuff that matters. It's the fact that there's a team that almost went away because it was them or the diving team.
Yeah,
it was
fantastic.
Men's diving or fucking football at Eastern Michigan, and it was a tough call. It was close.
Which is idiotic to me because I get it. Football, like if you're starting a brand new program, you need to like build a stadium and have all this money for equipment and stuff. But if you already have it, football is your cash cow, people. Have you ever looked at like the economics of like what an FCS school will make on their football team? Even an FCS, which TV contract is nothing close to what it's still like. This is the money. This is your cash cow from your athletic department.
I mean, maybe. I mean, Eastern Michigan won like 3 games in 30 years.
I get it.
Yeah, they could have been. I don't know if they were in the red.
But if you just thought, hey, if we hire the right coach, if we put more emphasis on our team, I think we might make more money.
In defense of the Eastern Michigan diving team, I was actually reading an article about the most dangerous Olympic sports. Do you want to? It was on there. Do you want to guess the top 3?
Oh, well, skateboarding wasn't a thing then. But
you think skateboarding would be on there?
I've seen some. Dude, I go down the rabbit holes in some of those nasty broken legs and stuff on the skateboarding outside of like a high school.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be funny if part of the Olympics was like fucking trespassing on a public high school to skateboard?
It would be. I'd be more inclined to watch. I'll tell you
Talk
that.
about people complaining about something getting over sanitized. Could you imagine skateboarding dudes watching Olympic skateboarding, being like, "You got to be." They fucking polished the shit. Like this dude broke his nose because of a fucking railing that was detached.
Right.
Can you imagine how fucking furious they would be?
Wouldn't it though? I'm assuming it's the answer's diving, right?
Diving is one of the top three. Diving. I
What's
want
the
to say
other
diving
two?
was third. It was luge. And then it was soccer. I think it was
Soccer?
I think it was a stupid list.
Okay.
But they talked about diving being like, this many people have died.
Not like downhill skiing.
Downhill skiing was it was a list of 10 and it was on there.
I mean, because what?
You know what we were-
Sonny Bono. I mean, I know he wasn't but didn't he die? Didn't Liam Neeson's wife die skiing?
But part of the Olympics isn't getting drunk with your fucking family and playing football on a mountain.
I just feel like it's a fucking downhill. There's an avalanche could start. I don't know.
If there was an Olympic sport called get drunk on the mountain and play football on your skis, then yes, that would definitely
What's
be
the
fucking.
sport where you can do that when you have a gun and you shoot? You're on skis.
I don't know.
I think that's a Winter
Shooting?
Olympic. No, but it's I'm telling you, you go down on skis and you have a gun and you shoot frisbees.
That's a real thing.
That's the Winter Olympics. I don't remember the name of the sport. I feel like this is where Google might help us.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing. I mean, that's got to be dangerous.
I only know this because of the video game, Winter Olympics for Sega Genesis back in the day. I'm just assuming, and I think maybe I've seen it once or twice on TV. I could be lying there.
Luge is, I feel was I was like, that's clearly the most dangerous because you're going 90 miles an hour. And if you just go like this and tip, then you're on your face on ice going 90 miles an hour.
How come they don't have more racing?
Like cars?
Yeah. What would that just be? I don't know. I've
As an
never
Olympic
understood
sport?
why
That's
not.
That's an interest. I don't know.
Because Japan makes their cars, Italy makes their cars. You would just think
It's not like
America makes their shitty Fords.
and even even things even when you watch stuff like NASCAR, it doesn't feel like a solely American thing. I feel like there's a lot of international competitors, so it feels like that would be competitive around the world.
I've never understood. I mean, they don't have American football in there, but I've never understood just weird. The protocol is weird.
That would be a sport for us to get crushed in.
That's true. We would get destroyed.
It would be really embarrassing.
But it would be high stakes because, once again, back to our football conversation. There's risk involved, guys. All right, when you drive a car at 200 miles an hour,
cut to you in 20 years being like, they make them wear seatbelts in the Olympic racing. These fucking pussies.
pretty much, man. Come on. What's the point of a seatbelt? If you hit something at 200 miles an hour, probably not gonna live.
Didn't they used to? Wasn't there a story? There was a guy who took over a car in NASCAR where the guy had died in the car before him. I wish I could remember the name because this is a story back from the 90s. And he said when he got in, he noticed a hole at the bottom of the floor where his feet were. And he was like, why is there a hole in the back of in the bottom? They were like, yeah, they cut that to drain the blood from the dude that died in this car before.
And he was still racing? They didn't patch that up?
He said there was a hole in the fucking car.
I'd worry about my team a little bit. You know what I mean? Be like, guys, why do I keep pitting? You don't fix this fucking hole. You know what I mean?
Dude, look, whatever. It's a different time. I think here's what I would say. There's a real element. This show had a clear vibe to it, and the vibe was everything since 1995 is shit. And I'm not against that fully. I think there's a lot of truth to the pendulum swinging maybe too far one way or another. And I'm all about people being educated about stuff we'll try to make the game a little bit safer. It's still an unsafe game where you're trying to physically beat the shit out of people. That's what it is.
But at what point do you change? If you wanted to make everything, if you wanted to make auto car racing safer, yes, then you could put bumpers in bowling or something where
nobody ever gets
hurt.
At
what point do you change the sport so much that it sucks?
But
you know what I mean?
But yes. But have you seen old clips of racing accidents in the 1930s where they literally just have a single strip of rope between the track
so
and the people.
Eat shit.
So when they eat shit, the cars flip into the fucking stands and kill 30 people.
Obviously, it's better than that. But how about this comparison then? Headgear in boxing. I am anti-headgear in boxing.
In professional boxing?
Yeah, when you watch professional boxing, sometimes in the Olympics, they'll use the headgear. right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is it loses its appeal. Like, yes, is it still strategic? I'm sure, unbelievably strategic. I mean, I've never really professionally boxed, but I've tried, and that's the hardest sport I've ever tried. But I just feel like we know that. Look, if we put headgear on, why isn't Mike Tyson wearing headgear or Evander Holyfield or whoever is boxing, right? Because it loses its luster. The personality is part of the game.
Yeah.
And I feel like if they were to do that, then the sport would suffer.
Sure.
We had Jim McMahon on the show, and I thought this is a guy that threw for like a ridiculous amount of yards at BYU. Won the Heisman Trophy, right?
Yeah, most hilarious BYU alum of all time.
Yes, for sure. But I wonder if he was having sex with students, because you're not allowed to, allegedly. But McMahon, I was assuming that he would say as a quarterback that he preferred to play in today's era. So I asked him, and he said, hell no. He goes, I can't even watch the game today. He goes, now this is a guy that's suffering from really...
badly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he just said, no, I just don't, the game's not appealing to me anymore. They protect the sport too much. They protect the quarterback too much. It's a different game. And even though he did say this, I would like to make some of the money today.
Sure.
Because he wasn't making great money in the 80s and early 90s. But I was shocked by that answer, because I thought he would prefer to play in a more of a passing-oriented league. And I was taken back by that. But then once again, I thought maybe just their level of appreciation for the sport is different.
Well, you also just think about, like, if you go through that, like, that's what the game was when you played it, and you're still suffering from the consequences. And then you see people that are playing a undoubtedly much more safe version of it, making 10 to 15 times what you were making. I mean, I can't remember whose contract I was looking at where it was like, in basketball terms, it was Scottie Pippen, who was making like $2 million a year, some insane amount.
Ridiculous, yeah.
Where you're like, holy fucking shit! Like, who was Matt Flynn?
Yeah, for the
Packers, made like $50 million. He started 3 games. Like, that part, I would completely understand someone being like, it feels unfair, and that's maybe, I'm not going to say why McMahon said what he said, but like, that could be. I found that shocking. I asked the question thinking that he would play into that, being like, yeah, I'd love to play today. They throw for 5,000 yards every game. Whatever the hell. Yeah.
I thought he was going to eat that up, and he was like, shit, no. He was like, I don't even watch the game today. Honestly, he goes, like, I'll watch like the Super Bowl or something because I'll be at a party. I was completely taken back by that, and I just thought, it made me want to. I wonder. I have had a ton of former guests on my show, and it made me want to ask them, go back and call Jeff Blake and say, hey, like,
what would you rather do?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know.
I gotta hope that I think Jeff Blake would say, I'll play today, because then I can actually have a fucking.
Well, I think that's another thing. For a black quarterback, I think they definitely want to play today. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, you see how they're fucking dominating now, because it's like, it's amazing. The NFL is better when it's not racist.
True. I mean, that's what's hilarious is, like, one of the best moments I thought that was swept under the rug, and it was only from a comical point of view, from looking over top of the sport, was Jerry Richardson selling the Panthers. Like, this Me Too movement started, and probably rightfully so, for a lot of these creeps, these owners that were pieces of shit, like Bob McNair and stuff of the Texans. But Jerry Richardson, as soon as he sees this shit, I mean, talk about. I don't even normally when you sell a franchise, it's like in the news for like a year or two that it's up for sale. He's going to be selling, right? Jerry Richardson, like, this movement started and like on a Friday, these owners, they're coming at McNair, they're coming at Kraft. I feel like by Monday, the Carolina Panthers team was sold. He was like, sell it. It's like, wait, we can get more value. Sell the team now. You know what I mean?
Actress Rose McGowan, check please.
Yeah.
Check please.
Dude, we did not talk about that enough as a society. I was like, dude, that motherfucker sold the team. And then he had in the contract, though, he made it so you had to keep the stadium, Jerry Richardson Stadium, but he got out. And it was like, dude, this dude had to be a huge piece of shit. He had to be a huge piece of shit. So
waiting for the other shoe to drop. Did you ever watch The Wire?
Yeah.
I think of Senator Clay Davis, where they're like, That motherfucker's been waiting for the shoe to drop for the last 20 years.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
waiting for those indictments to come. He knows the day's coming. You just have your little getaway planned. It's like a little button you hit, and a little slide opens up out into the back.
But dude, these franchises are worth so much money. That's like when Sterling sold the Clippers. I mean, he didn't even want to sell the Clippers. The NBA was making them.
Yeah.
And he got $2 billion for arguably the worst franchise in the history of American sports. And you're sitting there like, this dude, Richardson, sold it like it was like a fucking yard sale. It was like no one even heard that he was even thinking about selling the team. Then it was like, no, sold. You know, he had to have it. He's a business guy. He has to have money guys saying, hey, dude, our value of the team is, what's an NFL franchise? These things are, you can make a shit ton of money here. And he's like, no, sell it. Sell before they look into my life.
Some people are not looking forward to the background check. I think that's fair to say. Look, man, we're over an hour, which is fine. I don't even know why I'm mentioning that. There's no time on the thing, but
hey, it's whatever, you know.
Anyway, my wife's coming home, so we gotta wrap this shit up.
There we go.
But before we do, I'm a huge, you know this. I'm a fan of your I reached out to you.
Yeah, it was
listening
awesome.
to your podcast and was like, please put me on. I want to talk about college football because I mean, tell me how many podcasts you're running right now. Is it just the college football experience? You got other stuff that you come in and.
Well, yeah, we the sports gambling podcast. We do that. We talk other sports, but obviously, right now, like in the dog days of summer, it's full blown college football experience. I also do a college basketball experience. That's still coming out weekly.
Yeah.
But I'm breaking down all 130 FBS teams, a podcast for each team. Also going to hit some FCS as well, since I know that I can be ahead of the curve. You know what I mean? And
let's hear about that Colgate defense. You're going to give it to the people.
The Raiders defense, Colgate Raiders, baby.
You'll get a solid. You do that. You're like, I'm trying to think of a fucking FCS team.
Monmouth.
There you go. Monmouth's a good one. There's going to be 30 people that are like, there's a fucking Monmouth college football preview. I will travel to the ends of the world to see Colby Dant do stand-up.
That's my demographic.
Dude, what do you think mine? I feel like I started a podcast. I'm like, oh, this dude's like a fucking long-lost brother. Do we have like half pendants that would connect and we'd see that we were from the same mom? No, look, this podcast is like, how many people do you think Google Jeff Blake every week?
Oh, like, it's normally probably my search engine. You know what I mean? Like they're pulling up.
To me, I'm like, I had friends when I was starting the podcast, like, so backups. So like Tom Brady, I'm like, yeah, I'm sure my Tom Brady podcast will do real well in the algorithm.
Right?
It'll pop up right behind like someone getting fucking jizzed on with a Tom Brady jersey in the background with 8 views. No, I need people who like when you search for Coy Detmer, there's going to be 3 hits, and 2 of them need to be mine.
Oh man, I love it.
So I love the niche focus on your podcast. So yeah, tell the fans where they can find your shit and support you.
I mean, the college football experience and the sports gambling podcast. I mean, check out both. I mean, look, ours is still centered around gambling because that's what it was like a natural progression. We started out doing sports, or Sean Green and Ryan Kramer started the sports gambling podcast. I came in a couple of years after the fact, after keep running into Sean at stand-up shows. He's like, dude, I know you know sports. We need you on the show. I kind of thought he was just hammered one night. And then like when he continually asked me, I said, okay, let's do this. And then I would come on as kind of like a guest spot, but I just said, dude, we should do college football. I went to East Carolina. You know, I was at East Carolina at some point. So like, I know they have a gigantic fan base and a really passionate, fan base. So I knew that we don't ever get coverage, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, guys, not only do I come on and talk college football and college basketball and other sports, I mean, NFL and stuff too, like, why don't we just like spin off? And it kind of like came into its own thing. Like, I guess late 2017 started doing that as my solo show. I had a buddy that played at JMU, so I knew he was a defensive back at JMU that we could hop in and just talk college football. And then it turned into something. I mean, now we have like 45 people working for us. So
it's fucking awesome, man. And it's for all my listeners who are big sports fans. Believe it or not, it's not all my audience.
Really? What else are you hitting?
I guess because I usually in the first part of the podcast,
comedy,
it's comedy. Like
I was hoping it was something completely out of left field. Like, no. You know, the oil industry loves listening to this
home
podcast.
Repair and deep offshore drilling.
I was like, dude, I'm in. I'm always surprised that, like, for American college football, I have, like, a strong Australian fan base. And it blows my fucking mind.
Dude, that's not weird. I did a podcast. the Astro League podcast with this guy Matt that I just was chatting with online. He was like, "Oh, come on my show." And like the next day I had like 80 new followers on Instagram. They fucking love football in Australia. Like they love American football.
See, I would think they would love the NFL, just like kind of England actually does really well with the NFL, right?
They love all football.
That's fat.
They like it more than they like soccer.
Interesting.
Like it's like a huge thing there, and like they're all into fantasy sports. Like it's a real.
But you hit on like the Eastern Michigan podcast, and it's finding 30 people. Like 27 of those are from fucking Australia, and I'm always fascinated. Like, well, what the hell do they know about Eastern Michigan football?
I'm telling you, man, it's a real thing in Australia. It makes me want to go there.
Yeah, me too.
So I'm like, man, I feel like I'll fit right in.
Yeah,
it's fucking hard to find people to go to fucking games out here. But apparently, if I go to Australia and fly motherfuckers out, it'd be easier to find someone to go to a Padres game with me.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I spent years bartending at a hotel. Something about Australian people and Irish people, really.
Yeah.
They're very upbeat. They're very upbeat and like just happy to be alive. I don't know. Like, look, all people have good and bad people, but I'm saying for some reason those two. Now, obviously Australians, I don't know that they know the tipping policy, so you'd be I was even okay with like I know I was going to get no tip because they're a happy fucking people. You know what I mean?
They're very
like,
happy people.
Yeah.
They're happy to not be in prison anymore, which is good for them. The Australian accent sometimes I struggle with.
I'm one of those assholes that confuses it with England, and then they take great offense to it.
To me, it's the same. It's like a British people went to an island and then like got lost, and so the accent got fucked up. And sometimes like I'm watching what's the show right now? You watch Mythic Quest? It's with the guy from Sunny.
No, but Charlie
no, Rob McElhaney.
Oh.
But Charlie Day's a writer on it and created the show.
So they're done with It's Always Sunny, huh?
No, they're gonna keep going.
Okay, good.
But they just do their side shows, whatever.
Okay, I gotta check that out.
But the show's got a really funny Australian actress, and she's great, and she's like the lead or whatever. But every once in a while, she says a word with that accent. I'm just like, I can't fucking take the accent anymore. It's just, for some reason, in moments, I'm like, it just seems like they're doing it to fuck with people.
See, but sometimes if I'm watching...
It's the only accent I feel that way.
Huh, that's interesting.
Australian accents.
Interesting, because, I mean, I have a thin line knowing between them and British, but sometimes I'll watch, like, I always perfectly fall asleep to, like, a British movie because they're talking with British accents.
Yeah.
And I never want to talk like that, but at the same time, there's something that I find, like, relaxing with it.
Yeah, you just fall asleep to Idris Elba interviews on YouTube.
Pretty much, man. I just put that on and I'm out, man.
He's like, there were so many good actors on The Wire.
Exactly, man.
It's a peaceful sleep. Did you tell the people where to go? I feel like we talked about your...
sportsgamblingpodcast.com, or how about this? Download the SGPN app and you'll get all of our stuff. The college football experience is what... I'm currently really doing this, this offseason, every offseason, but in the college basketball experience, check all that stuff out. The SGPN app's free in the App Store and Google Play Store. You'll get all of our interviews. We just had Phil Steele on, Jim McMahon, Mike Leach. Yeah, yes.
No, I love when I did a podcast recently where a buddy of mine was on it, and then the person, he's just like a guy like me trying to get his podcast off the ground. And the next guest was Matthew McConaughey on the same podcast.
Wow.
And it was like, yeah, bro, I don't think yours is going to get too many down. I feel like make sure when you send people to your podcast, you send it to specifically your link, because I think he's getting the click before you.
Oh, dude, isn't that the worst? I remember like doing the Comedy Store, and like I had all my friends show up, and Main Stage Comedy Store, and you're thinking like, man, fucking Jim Carrey and everyone's done this. Chappelle, everybody's done this fucking room.
Yeah.
It was one of my first times doing the Comedy Store, and I got bumped. Well, I got bumped one time, actually, for Chappelle, and then one time for Bobby Lee. But the Bobby Lee one was actually, because Chappelle did like an hour, so I think I just punted on the night. But Bobby Lee, like, got a standing ovation. And then I came on next, and it was the worst experience of my life, and all my friends were there to support me. So,
sucks.
Yeah, just a ridiculous. But that's sort of essentially you got bumped in a way by Matthew McConaughey.
A little bit, but it's all right. Like I said, I got no problems with Matt. I'll just try to get Matthew on the show to confront him.
Or you know how you get back at him? You don't go see his movie next time at the movie theater. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe I don't read.
I don't read his book. Hit him where it hurts the most.
I will not buy Greenlight or whatever the fuck his new book is. He's been hawking on Zoom calls for the last year. I'm putting the call out to McConaughey, all right? Hear that, backup fans? Fucking tweet at.
All right.
Yeah, that's his handle. All right. Look, man, this was a lot of fun. Thank you for doing the show, and yeah, we'll have you back sometime.
Thanks for having me. You got to hop on the college experience to talk Wyoming football or something soon.
Army, dude.
There we go. I already did it. I'm going alphabetically.
I know, but there's going to be a game this year. Army's getting a big win.
Maybe week 1 preview. Georgia State.
I might go to that game. I'm at a comedy festival in North Carolina around that time. I'm like, North Carolina, Georgia, I can make that trip. I want to go see the remade fucking stadium from where they had the Olympics. Now it's a stadium for a middling football program. Fuck yeah.
Someone wrote a great piece. It might have been on my site or in the Slack channel maybe for Sports Gambling Podcast, but they're saying you could pull off the trifecta in Atlanta on Saturday. What is it, September 2nd, I think maybe?
Yeah, it's the weekend of the 4th.
You can pull off Georgia Tech is hosting Northern Illinois in Atlanta, Bobby Dodd Stadium.
Love it.
Georgia State's hosting Army, and Miami is playing Alabama at the Georgia Dome, and all 3 are at very different time zones. So you can pull off the trifecta on college football if you're up for the challenge.
God damn, man. That would be amazing. I was thinking about going. Isn't Maryland playing West Virginia this year?
Yes.
I'm thinking about going because my family...
It's in College Park, I think.
Yeah. My family lives in Maryland. Okay. So I was thinking about going home for that. I thought that might be... They need more of those fucking, like, state next to state games.
That's the problem, man, is the money is ruling college football. Here I am again!
If they just wore the creamsicle uniforms, I'd go to sleep at night.
Run the triple option!
All right, man, look, we've said goodbye like 35 times.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for doing the show.
Yeah, anytime, brother.
All right. Thanks for listening to the show. If you'd like to support us for free, there are many ways to do it. Start by subscribing on whatever platform you're currently listening on. If you're on Apple Podcasts, write a 5-star review. And if you're on YouTube, like the video and leave a comment. On ErickHellwig.com, you can subscribe to the newsletter and click the track button to follow Erick's stand-up dates and never miss a show when he's in town. To support the podcast financially, visit the merch store via Erick's website. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you on the next show.